Hello, number 195 this week. Here we are in sunny Los Angeles, California, for another Sunday Live. What happened this week? This week, I put out some videos. Put up the Mitch Malloy's Van Halen Experience Hot for Teacher video. That was fun. What else did I put out? Oh, the high watt amps in the zone, featuring my friend John Shanks, DR103. So, no gear demos this week, but I thought maybe it was time to put up some different kinds of videos. So that's what I did. And lots of gear demos I'm working on now for next week and stuff like that. I want to show you guys this. This is interesting. The company, is it ASI? I think it's called ASI. This is an in-ear pack. And in-ears. These are generic in-ears that don't have the molds on the end. They've just got the buds. But these are, I guess, the logical extension of the old Sensophonic ambient in-ear system, which was very expensive. I forked out for it, and it broke. But it was good nonetheless. It had a unique thing about it, which is that they had microphones in the in-ears. And that's what this thing is. This isn't a pack to receive from like a monitor console or something like that. What this is actually active electronics for the microphones that are in the in-ears. So this system, I believe they started a new company. I think it's called ASI. It would be helpful if I knew the name of the company, right? Let me just double check and make sure. The goal with them, though, the whole idea is that you can blend in ambient signal with your whatever's coming from the monitor desk, so you got your guitar and your in-ears or the drums or whatever. You can also blend in the microphones at any level. So make sure that that's the name of the company, but I'm not sure it is. I might have that. Yeah, that's right. ASI Audio by Sensophonic. So it's asiaudio.com. Anyways, they work really good. This Bluetooth up to an app. Everything's an app these days. This Bluetooth up to an app, and you get an EQ and control over the microphones. You can control the level of the microphones right here on the unit, but then you can also kind of fine tune things more and really dial in via the app. And then it stores and kind of saves, so that you don't really have to do that again. There's a limiter, stuff like that. This pack is USB, you plug it in and charge it up. It's got a USB battery recharge kind of scenario. And anyway, the little microphones in the ends of the in-ears. I wonder if you can see them. It's right there, kind of underneath that thing on the side of the in-ear. But they work quite good, man. I have to say. I mean, I haven't had a chance to try them at a gig, but I want to try them because, of course, then you can get your ambient signal in your ears and maybe just blend in a bit of your own guitar, and you don't have that like super direct. You can hear your amp, you can hear the drums, you can approach them maybe a little bit more like you would a wedge. Give me a little bit of kick, hi-hat, give me, because you can hear the snare drum on stage or whatever. And you can think of it almost like a bit like an active earplug, because you can turn down the ambient signal to whatever you want. You can actually get louder with these. So you couldn't do that with the Sensophonics. With these, you can almost get louder than your ears hear, almost like a hearing aid, I guess. But like you can also turn down the signal to whatever level you want and set a limiter at 90 dB, 95 dB, wherever you want to set the limiter, 100 dB. Pretty cool. So that's something neat that you might want to check out. Much less expensive than the Sensophonics, where I think this system, just with the generic in-ears, the whole thing, I think it's around $650 or something, which is cheap for in-ears. I mean, just a set of good in-ears will cost you $700 for like a, your average UE7 kind of midline UE ones or whatever. I think that might be low. Actually, that might be 900 or something. So anyway, at $650 or whatever with the electronics, pretty cool. If you miss that interaction on stage, I mean, you'd be able to talk to each other on stage if you have those, Hey, go to the 5 chord. I can't hear you. I've got in-ears in, right? That's could be a thing of the past. Missed last week's live, says Stephen Douglas, but watched midweek. It was a great show. Thank you. The Mask Show. Hey, Carly Guitar, High Watt Demo was killer. Thanks. I really enjoyed that amp as well. And it was the first time I've really got to spend some good time with one here, and I thank my friend John Shanks for that, because it was actually really fun to get to rock that thing, and kind of, like, realize that it really does sound kind of Fendery, especially if you turn the mids down. But it's that 100K mid that really makes it a unique thing when you turn that way up and the distortion comes on fast. That was cool to learn about the circuit. But you turn down the mid and it's not dissimilar to a Fender sound, that's for sure. And I guess it's really kind of a Fendery EQ, except for that big mid control. There's another comment here about the high watt. I can't understand why they didn't break into the country market. Yeah, no, it's interesting, right? I mean, probably just because Fender was, I mean, really, you consider at the time when the amps were coming out that Marshall Vox high watt was really, like, over in the States. I don't know how many Marshalls were around in the 60s in the States, everybody was kind of over on this side of the pond was, I would think, I mean, maybe there was more imports coming into the US from the UK than there was exports going to England. I don't know. I just know that it was tough to get things like Fenders in the UK, which is why you had these companies that saw an opportunity, Sound City, Music Shop, certainly Marshall started as a music store, right? And then started making amps, and then quickly, whoa, there's way more money on this than just owning a store. And, and they started making amps for the UK market, because, there wasn't a hell of a lot going on as far as imports go. So, I mean, everybody wanted Strats. I get, like, Mark Knopfler and, folks like that. They saw Hank Marvin with his Strat, which was like maybe one of the first ones that got over to the, but you think about that, it was like the late 50s already. The Strat had been around for six, seven years, right? At that point in England, and there really wasn't. This is why you see the Beatles playing. I guess Rick's made it over there because Lennon had one and stuff. But you see them with the Hofner bass and stuff. I mean, I bet if a Fender bass had made it over to the UK or were readily available, we probably would have seen McCartney with a Fender bass or something. So, anyways, it's just interesting that the sort of the supply chain like we're dealing with these days. Is because it certainly wasn't for the lack of tone. I mean, also Vox. You see a lot of the country guy. I mean, Brad Paisley, right? He's a big kind of EL84, Voxy dude. I think Keith Urban, maybe. They really appreciate those amps from the UK and those designs and stuff. So, because to me, a Vox has a great sound for that edge breakup, or the compression and everything that they do is pretty cool for country stuff. So. Yeah. As a touring guitarist, have you ever reached out to the session guitarist to ask how they played a part? Well, that's an interesting question. Would that be considered bad form? I don't know that I ever did. I tell you what, when I was playing with Chris Cornell, he would have been the session guitarist, right? And I've got videos of him teaching me things, where I'm like, can you just show me how to play this song? And I've thought about posting some of them because I've got videos of him actually showing me how to play the riffs. And they're pretty interesting. They're like a little guitar lesson right from Chris Cornell, but he shows me the tuning and then showed me how, and I was like, oh, then it was much easier. Tell you what, most guitar riffs are super easy to figure out compared to those Soundgarden songs, because the Soundgarden songs all had these crazy tunings. And back when I was playing with him, there was some information on the internet, but not as much as there is now about like, the tunings and how to play certain riffs and stuff like that. People, this was 2007. So it was like 2006 going into 2007. There wasn't as much on the internet about how to play a lot of that stuff. So I found it, easiest to just ask him, even though I was pretty good at figuring out songs on my own. When it came to, when it comes to alternate tunings and weird string gauges and stuff, it's like it all goes out the window. There's a lot more to figure out. So it was really cool to just ask him and then have him show me directly, because he played a lot of that stuff. I saw something recently where Jerry Cantrell said Kim Thale was the best, most original, guitar player to come out of Seattle. And Kim's great, and I love Kim, but we can't discount Chris's actually contribution to the guitar parts in Soundgarden, because he actually played a lot of the guitars that folks might think was maybe Kim, So Chris played a lot too, a lot of the rhythm guitars and the sort of the meat of the parts or whatever that were in those tins. A lot of that's Chris. So beyond that, I don't know that I ever reached out to anyone else to figure it out. I would just kind of get as close as I could and then do my own thing. And then if an artist was like, that's not it, that almost never happened. A couple times. I remember with Don Henley having to do a little bit of research into like the acoustic guitar on what's the song? Best of My Love by the Eagles. I couldn't figure out what was going on with the tuning. It's a drop C on the low E string, and then I think you drop the A string to G, and then the rest of the guitar might be standard. I just can't remember right now, but it was a unique tuning, and I remembered having to do a little bit of research because I was like, how does the acoustic sound like that? I just couldn't figure that out for whatever reason. So I think I asked Will. He wouldn't have gone to, like Glenn Fry or something have asked him. He would have asked Glenn's tech. Will is the MD for Don Henley and for the Eagles. So I think I asked Will if he could put in can you help Pete out figuring out exactly what's going on this? And it was probably the tech that, Glenn's tech that maybe got back to me and told me what was going on with the tuning and stuff. So I guess there's that. Thanks for the super chats, you guys. Appreciate that. Do you think the PT-59R has a lifespan due to the digital aspect? No, I don't. I think that, the converters in it are super high quality. And I think if it sounds good, it is good. I mean, there has been thoughts made about moving forward if we were to do something else with the chip, like how to make that something that somebody could probably upgrade if they wanted to, So that's a thought. That it's like, so that, you don't have an amp that somehow, but like the term obsolete, like it's like, it works great. It sounds awesome, as it is. So it's like, it's not going to sound, I'll put it to you this way, a close mic impulse response, because the only thing that's going to change is probably the length of the IR. But I really think that it's a stretch to think that somebody can hear the difference between the sound of a close mic IR at 25 milliseconds, the IR length, or at 50 milliseconds or at 500 milliseconds if it's only the close mic signal. So the only thing that would get improved long term would be if you could do a 500 millisecond IR on a chip, which is expensive and difficult to do and would add to the cost of the amplifier. But if you could do it, you would get the ability to add some of the room sound in. That's about it. You're not going to notice a difference in the close mic quality of the signal. It's just if you look at the length of the IR, like let's take the Celestion ones, for example. They have ones that go up to 500 milliseconds. They have, but if you look at the signal, I mean, it's a spike it's a big waveform, and then it comes down narrow, and then it's like this by the time you hit 20 milliseconds. And that's, if you got the IR is, the chip maximum is like 22 milliseconds or something like that. Well, okay, there's no information beyond that, but there's nothing going on in the IR after that. So now, if you look at an ambient IR, there is, so yeah, we can't do those because they're going to truncate. You're not going to be able to get the advantage, but the sound quality is of the close mic signal is going to be the same, basically, so now, so if you've got as long as your IR is short, which most close mic ones are, they just don't go any longer unless it's some room sound involved and stuff like that. Like you can just see it in the waveform. There's no information there. So anyway, so I hope that makes sense. And I've tried to sort of demonstrate that on the internet, where it's like you can start to hear it if you cut it down to where I really start to hear it is anywhere sub 15 milliseconds. You'll start to hear a change in the low end. It sounds like less bass generally. But anyways, even at like 50, like a lot of people use their Moore radars, they're at like 15, I think. Is the so I really don't think so. And we've all I'll say about it is that we've thought about that, and that if it's something where you get a PT15IR right now, and then we put a chip in it 5 years from now or 3 years from now or whatever, that'll do 500 millisecond IRs or something. It's something that I would think we would be able to, you know, for whatever, like, hey, you want to do a mod to update? That's been thought about. So it's not a big deal. Now, beyond that, the amp has been a resounding success. I mean, I get nothing but great reports about the PT15, the tones, the way people are using it. Like, there's nothing I really would change about it at all. For that particular model, you know, I think we just keep that going. It's been a success. It's been a great amp. So it's like, I don't want to change anything on it. You know, I want to come out with other things more, but that one's just great. And I'm taking it once again to use for Classic Rock Show, and I will run that IR signal as I did the last time to the PA, because if you watch the videos from Classic Rock Show, the 2020 shows, I'm so happy with the sounds and the way they turned out in the mix on the videos. I mean, the mix is, you know, their engineer is great and he does great mixes, but beyond that, the raw sound of the guitar, I couldn't ask for a better live sound, I don't think. I mean, you listen, just like watch the Thunderstruck video or the in the mix, it sounds awesome. I couldn't ask for a better live sound, so why mess with it, you know? So that's honestly what I feel like. Here's another question about a Sir product, the Discovery analog delay. I love it. It's awesome. It's terrific. I need to get I lent mine to Warren D. Martini, and I got to get it back one of these days. He's still got it. I lent it to him like 3 months ago or something, 2 months ago. But he lent me his recording the Beatles book, so we did a little trade. But it's an awesome delay that is great for that analog character. You know, it's bordering on, I mean, you can get dark digital out of it almost. You know, it sounds that good, like the way that Kevin designed it. So and with the ability to store presets and, you know, the mod in it, it's one of the, I said in the video, I said I think this is the best analog delay ever made, and I do think so. I mean, it's certainly the, you know, got the most options tonally. It's got a ton of headroom. You can use it in the loop of an amp. I mean, try and use Memory Man in the effect loop. It's just going to be a distorted mess, you know. So anyways, it's killer. Highly recommend it. What's your favorite chorus pedal? You know, my little I've got a few favorites that I really like, but and I've got no problem, by the way, with the Mobius. I think the Mobius works great for mod, flanger, chorus. I mean, it does great simulation of analog boxes, you know, and I think it's a great all-in-one. You know, if you want a great mod across the spectrum, tremolo and Univibe, even, you know, I think the Mobius is wonderful. But just a chorus, I really enjoy this one a lot. That's the Anodyne from Providence. You heard me use it if you watched the High Watt video. I used it for I played a Comfortably Numb solo in there, as well as the Alex Lifeson part. And it's just instant Alex when you turn it on. I think it sounds really great. It's just a, what do we got here? Like a mix knob, a speed, and a depth. But then you do have a 3-way switcher for adjustable delay time. And it gets really seasick in the most delay time position. In the middle, it sounds really great. And then in the minimum position, it's subtle but great. So there's 2 great settings on there. The really long delay time is a little much for me, but might work for some things. But that pedal's great. I like Kevin's too. The Sir, forgetting the name of it, Alexa. The Alexa is great. I believe that's what it's called, right? Or is that am I mixing that up just because of the Amazon thing? I think he used that name before they did the first pedal, so now it gets confusing. Anyways, what else we got here? I'm gonna go down the bottom of the chat. Sorry, I'm kind of slow today. The coffee's just hasn't started kicking in yet. Just watched the Hot for Teacher video. Really epic performance for the whole band. Thanks. What gear did you use on it? So it's my it's this pedal board. I happen to have it right here. I pulled the tuner off of the board. I just realized I can put it back on right now. I can do double duty while I'm talking to you guys. I was using the tuner for something yesterday. My Polytune. We love the Polytune Mini. It's my favorite. So on the board is, I'll tell you the good and the bad. The good and the bad. It's a quad Cortex, which is awesome. The EVH flanger and an old 70s MXR Phase 90. I may eventually swap that out for a Phase 95 on this board, just because I miss having a, oh, sorry, you can't see it. I miss having a LED, because sometimes one thing about the show is I had the, I hit it on for I'm the One for the solo, and then I didn't turn it off, or I forgot, or maybe I didn't hit the switch right or something. So then I had the phase on during the song at the wrong times. I played the song good, but I had the phaser on for the rhythm parts, and then I turned it off for the solo. You know, it's like one of those things that I don't know. Well, I always wondered that about Eddie. I guess he just, you know, it's a little bit like Crash Ride and the heat of the moment and stuff. And is the phaser on? I'm not sure, you know, when it's really loud on stage. So I guess it was that. But anyway, so I might put a Phase 95 on there because I think they sound really good for that Phase 90 sound. And I've got an Echoplex on there right now, which I didn't use at the show. I had it's a long story. I had a UA delay on there that I didn't end up using for the show, except for like to do the at the end of Eruption. So, and then you learn things at gigs, right? Like you always learn something. And so I learned what I didn't like on the board and what I did like. So right now I've got the Echoplex on there. This thing, which is discontinued, so I can say, I guess, but this was awful. And I don't normally say that about stuff, but these just don't work. They don't work. The relay G7 doesn't work. So I'm getting, long story short, without getting any further into it than that, I'm getting a Shure, because Shure makes great wireless. So the Shure, what's the one I'm getting? UHD something or other. It's about $1,000 for the receiver, and with the transmitter and everything, they're about $1,500, I think. And so it's the system kind of under the Axiom, which is the super high-end Shure. But I've used the Shure digital, that's, you know, the $1,000 one, and it's great. And you can do a million channels with it and all that stuff, and it seems to work really well. Just no dropouts. Really, really good. The wireless I ended up using at the gig, because this one literally, it would not work. I tried all the channels, and it would work for 5 minutes, and then I'd start to get dropouts. And it's just the last time I will ever use, you know, I'm a big fan of those guys, but that's the last time I'll ever use one of their wireless products. Sorry, I just can't anymore. It's so frustrating at a gig to go through that. And I've been burned a few times. So I need a wireless where I can set the channel and I can scan. I mean, and I have an AKG that's like a $2,000, you know, system, but it's from 10 years ago. And, you know, they get old, and then the companies change the channels and stuff like that, or the you know, like whatever, you know, with internet and with television and stuff like that. It's like it becomes hard sometimes for, you know, you got to update your wireless, I guess, every 5 years or something. Make sure it's compatible with whatever's going on in the. So, anyways, I ended up using a Shure that I think was an analog system that somebody just had there. And it worked okay. It dropped out a little bit here and there, which was a bummer, but very quick dropouts. It was a cheap, you know, it's the $299 Shure analog system. I know. I should know better, right, than to have gone. But I had used that G70 here in LA at some rehearsals and stuff, and it seemed to work fine. So I thought this should be okay on an outdoor stage at a park. It's not a lot of Wi-Fi going on. It's like, should be okay. Seemed to work really good, like in the days leading up to, you know, rehearsals and stuff. It was fine. Got to the actual gig day, and it was awful. So anyway, no more screwing around with wireless. Just the Shure is the way I'm going, because that's what I use in Europe on tour and in Japan and stuff like that. Those, you know, they're just really good. And then the sound was the quad Cortex running into a Matrix power amp, a 3-channel GT 1500, I think it's called, and 3 Shure 412s, my signature 412s. So yeah, and then I just mic'd the cabinets. Now, if I do it again, what I would do is I think I'll go stereo instead out of the quad Cortex into 2 channels, 2 412s, and then I'm going to run speaker sim. Because I knew this already. You know, you know things, but then you kind of like forget, and then you relearn things. I should have just run IRs to the front of house, because it's more consistent. There's no bleed. And just putting 57s on the cabinets was a good sound. That's what you hear in that Hot for Teacher video. but to me, it sounds better running the internal, like IRs for the front of house, and if we're doing any recording and stuff like that, it's just a little bit better. So, and there was a capture of my Shure SL68, that one right there, in the Quad Cortex, and that was the guitar sound that you hear. So it works really good. I may try using that amp next time, that one, and just either run it into a load box and then like Shure reactive load come out of there into the Quad Cortex, through all the effects. So I'd have to go the pedals into the head, out of the head into the load box line out into the Quad Cortex, and do all the time stuff in the stereo and the Quad Cortex, as well as, pass through to the cabs, speaker simulation so I think that would probably be a little bit better if I did all that. But it was great nonetheless for what it was, and I had a good time doing it the way I did it. So Big Wave Dave, been messing around with low gain. Any advice on how to stack most distortion into a Nobles into Blues driver? Well, a most distortion and a Nobles are, to me, kind of similar. No? I mean, maybe it's a bit more overdrive in the most distortion, but they're that kind of like less mids thing. Into a blues driver, love the tones more than distortion. Into a blues driver, that's interesting. See, I would probably put the blues driver first, because that would be my more sort of closer to a Tube Screamer MIDI thing, pushing into the more amp-like drives. But whatever works, you might have, it doesn't mean that I would be right. Any advice on it? Well, I guess my only advice is try the other way. Try running the blues driver in front and see if you like that as much. But don't listen to me. If you've got a good sound going, don't question it. Just got an SL68. Wow, it's amazing. What preamp power tubes would you put in it? I would rock what's in it. To be honest, if you want to play around, you can, but it doesn't mean it's going to necessarily get better. I really like a couple things you can do and try if you want, like a tested, balanced Sovtech LPS 12AX7 with the long plates in the phase inverter is pretty nice to me. I like that a lot. You could try, the usual suspect, get a really good tested Bugle Boy or Mullard of some sort for V1, and get a couple, like maybe what I ended up with was a Bugle Boy in V1, a Mullard in V2, and a long plate Sovtech LPS in V3. That's probably still what's in there. I haven't looked for a while, but either that or it's a Sylvania in V3. And as far as EL34s, you could watch that EL34 kind of test thingy that I did a while ago and see if there's, what you'd garner from that. I really like, for new ones, I like the EH just fine. The Mullards sound good too. The Tongue Soul sounded good for new ones. But you've got EH in there now, I think, if you got a new SL68, and the EH are terrific for new EL34s. They sound really good. If you want to try some old ones, search for an old, find a quartet of Siemens. I really like Siemens EL34s for new old stock, the RFTs Siemens. They just sound like an EL34 to me. It doesn't necessarily sound like Van Halen or whatever, but they just have the right sound to me. They have this great quality to them. So depending on what you want, I think that's a great way to go. And they're kind of the least expensive of the new old stuff. Like, they're way less than getting old Mullards or something, which are really scarce now. So Siemens RFT, but you're just fine with the with what the amp comes with, to be honest. If you want a bit more sort of like in the 12AX7s, it's to me like for like a modern kind of distortion, modern grind kind of thing, tested Chinese 12AX7s are just fine for that. It's what you heard come in, PT100s, and I don't know what's in there. You might want to take a look what's in it now, but like in the SL68, what it came with. But I like those Chinese 12AX7s for this that have been out since the 90s, really. It's just they're getting somewhat hard to get because that factory went offline. So, but you can still find them at certain places. So, A new one that I really liked for 12AX7 that I think is really good is the E83cc from JJ. So not the ECC83, not the ECC83, the short plate guy. It's the E83cc. So if you can remember that, they're just a little bit more money. Like I think they're maybe $14 a tube or something at most places, something like that. Maybe more, maybe 17 or 18. I can't remember. But anyways, that is a really nice sounding tube that had a nice open top end. All the things the ECC83, the old JJ, it sounded like a blanket over the amp to me. The other one doesn't sound like that. So get a couple of those and try those too. Yeah, man. Hope that's helpful. Okay. What else we got here? I'm going to switch glasses. The progressives are cool, but you kind of need to look through the bottom of them, which is, I wish it started a little bit sooner. These are my Caddis progressives, you know? That's better. The reading situations. Anybody out there ever had operation to get their floaters taken out? I've got floaters really bad. And like if you've ever had a retinal detachment, there's probably somebody, I bet, that's watching right now that's had a retinal detachment, and maybe they cleaned out your in your eyes the vitreous, right? And I think if you get a retinal detachment, that all comes out, and then they put in a synthetic, and you get once your eyes healed and everything, you get a superhuman vision again without any floaters because it all comes out. I just wonder if you know what I'm talking about, floaters, right? That BS that floats around in your Stealth Parrot says floaters are very common, yeah, and super common in my eyes, too common. It's got to the point now where I've got one in my left eye, which is my good eye, really. That's almost like an L shape, and it's got a squiggly on one end, and it just flies around in there all day. And when I'm reading, I'm like trying to get it to move out of my, and it's quite exhausting, you know. I find Robert says I have very bad floaters. I've got a friend that had a retinal detachment, and he had the whole process done where they take him out, and he said it was amazing. Like once, that's like a side effect of, obviously you don't want a retinal detachment. He told me, he goes, I don't want you to get a retinal detachment. Like I don't wish that on anybody, but I kind of hope you get one because if you get one, you're gonna have to, you'll go through to reattach and fix it and everything. Your vision will most likely be fine because it's a routine operation, although it's a medical emergency if you get a retinal detachment, but they will fix that, and it'll be, it'll be great. Msm Drops for floaters. Never heard about that. Haven't heard of that. Can't laser surgery fix those? They can, in some instances, shoot a laser in there to break the floater up, but you're also shooting a laser into your eye. So it's not without risks. Could hit the back of your retina, could burn out your, could cause blindness. They're reluctant to do it, generally speaking, is what I've heard. So is there any treatment to help with your vision problems? Well, yeah, I mean, I could, like I say, like what I was just saying, there's basically the ophthalmologist told me it's a, we weigh the risks and the benefits and how bad is your quality of life right now when it comes to the floaters and things like that, and then we make decisions. But I've had multiple patients, Stephen says, are you an eye doctor, Stephen? Get glaucoma from a vitrectomy. Well, and that's the thing too that I think doesn't that vitrectomy is the procedure to remove the fluid, right? And retinal detachment, all this, and then glaucoma is like a thing that happens after that. That seems to be very common, right? So then you got to get a lens replacement. But of course, if you get a lens replacement, you can get a compensated lens, and then I don't need any glasses or contacts anymore, which is also exciting. But obviously, with all the associated risks that you could completely lose your vision, probably multiple ways during all of that. So anyways, good times getting older, right? I like my floaters. I give them all names. I like it. There's a couple questions about if you could only have one guitar here, and keep coming back with the if the If you see things about floaters, no drops for floater. That's what I. Stephen, are you indeed a doctor? I wonder. I would like to talk to you if you are an ophthalmologist. If you're going to war equipped with only one single guitar, would you have it wield small or jumbo frets? I would always do jumbo. I'm a jumbo fret fan across the board. I just got used to them in the 80s. I kind of grew up on bigger frets. And yeah. Pete, get bifocal RGP contacts. Never heard of that, but I'll write it down. I'm a little limited on the contacts I can get due to my vision issues. I wear a toric lens that's really, really intense and strong. And because of my high astigmatism prescription, as far as I know, there's only a couple brands of contacts that are even made for me, but I'll look into that. Bifocal. Thanks, guys. I'm being selfish here, but I'll be back to guitars here in just a second. Contacts. Just trying to improve my life a little bit. One guitar, big frets. That last question. Always big frets. My signature guitar would be the one I would take, and it's got 6100 style frets in it. So this is from our friend asking about tubes. I bought the SL68 secondhand. Got it. It's got JJ throughout. Yeah. Go get the okay. Get 3 tested high gain Chinese 12AX7s. Get a Sovtech LPS long plate with, hopefully you might be able to go to Doug's Tubes or one of these places for stuff like this, or maybe the tube store, but tested and the sides matched for the phase inverter, just because they say that's a good thing. Get some of the JJ E83CCs, and then if you want to mess around with new old stock, get a Mullard and a Bugle Boy for V1 and V2. You can swap them around, see what you like better. And then as far as power tubes go, you're probably good with the JJs if they're working. I like JJ power tubes if they're working. They sound good. You could get some EH and see if you like them better. But listen to my EL34 test. I actually quite like the JJs. They had an aggressive kind of rock, forward thing with the that was really cool, I thought, in the test that I did. And JJ used to be what shipped in the SL68 as well as the PT100 and stuff. It's just they started to become very unreliable. But your amp might be, a few years old and still had good JJs in it. And if they're working, they're probably fine, So, yeah. Magic Man says, I highly recommend Ruby tubes. Sound fantastic. Ruby, once again, is just a rebrander. So they're kind of like Groove Tubes or TAD. They buy tubes from JJ, from Sovtech, and they rebrand them with the Ruby tested as their own. So they're a tester. They match them, they measure them, and they rebrand them, just so we're clear on what Ruby is. Yeah. What else we got here? A good ophthalmologist would prescribe right lenses for floaters, no more floaters. Well, how's that work though? Because the floater's just in your eye floating around, and the light's going through it, refracting or whatever, and it just is I don't think a contact would change that. No. How would that work? I mean, it's something physical that's actually floating in the light's going through your cornea, and then you get your vitreous in there, and the lens in the middle of your eye, and then it goes back to, it's supposed to hit your retina right the right point so that it gets converted to your optic nerve and all that business. Yeah. Would your island guitar be the Red Sir? Probably, yeah. I think at this point, like if I had to run out of here right now, I could only have one. It's like, and you're gonna have to work after your place is collapsing, and you're gonna have to gig tomorrow. I'd probably grab that one. Could be like, well, okay, this is the one that makes the most sense to get my job done, to be honest. RGPs are custom and will fit all patients. Okay, I'll ask my guy about those. Do you like stainless steel for frets? I do. I generally like stainless steel frets. I still like nickel frets too, because I think they have a certain feel and sound. But I don't know if that sound actually translates through the amp. I just hear it in the. I mean, all my guitars come with stainless steel frets. My my model or whatever. And I'm used to them now, and I'm used to the frets feeling slick and not needing, I used to steel wool my frets and stuff, and I hated it when they get kind of grimy, and that's just a thing of the past. So anyways, Horst says, your vision problems didn't stop you from being a great guitar player. Hey, man, thanks. I'm still a student. I'm still learning. Still working on it, but I appreciate that. Thank you, man. Yeah. What else we got here? Les is suggesting Bauschenlam Ultra. Whatever happened to the hot pink BC Rich? You may have seen I posted a photo of myself as a young nerd with a BC Rich. I don't know. There's so many guitars that I had, man, where I don't remember where they went. One of them is my Kramer. I had a Blue Burst Kramer Pacer from the early 80s. That was so cool. And that's the one guitar where I go like, what did I do with that guitar? Like, I just don't remember what happened to it. I traded things away, and, just kind of, things come and go, right? You guys know all that. Okay, I'm going back through the chat here. Jamie says that he had a retinal detachment in the left and 2 cataracts removed. Can you see like Superman now, though? Can you see like absolutely perfectly? When you had your cataracts removed, did you get, maybe you didn't have any vision problems, but I just wonder if you had compensated lenses put in to, compensate for any vision deficiencies. Fox says you can get prescription lenses for floaters. Really? I've never heard that. Never heard that. Is that what these bifocal lenses are? Steven, tell me more. Right. What else we got here? Some super chats I missed. Arthur had a little downtime before meeting up with one of our mutual friends, so got to show that support. Thanks, man. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. And then there was a super chat of a similar question. If you could only have one guitar, 1 amp, and 3 pedals. 3 pedals. One would be a tuner. I know that's boring, but it's true. A polytune, probably a polytune, a Klon of some sort, like the Archer, and maybe a delay. Well, why not you know what? If I could only have, I'm going to pick this one. I'm going to pick the, because I said something bad about a Line 6 product during this. Now I'm going to give props to the HX Stomp. So, because the HX Stomp is a great product. So if I could have the 3 pedals, it would be a tuner, the Archer, and an HX Stomp. I'll give them some love now, because that's just a terrific pedal. And then I can do everything. I can even play direct if I wanted to. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Yeah. Satch says, I have really bad floaters. They're telling me you have to live with them. Yeah, that's what they will tell you, because they're not going to tell you they can take them out, because taking them out leaves you at increased risk for cataracts as well as retinal detachment and all kinds of other things. So, but if you have one of those things anyway, like the retinal detachment, one of the little side benefits, I guess, benefits, let's call it a silver lining, is that they can take them out. They have to take them out, I think, because when they, they have to replace your vitreous. So it's just part of what happens. Plus minus of the Temple audio boards. Oh yeah, I didn't mention Temple. So this board is a Temple audio board, and I have nothing bad to say about them. I think they're great. I didn't use their way of attaching things to the board. They're a unique attachment system that you can see the holes in the board, and it's all got dual lock on it. I went the old school way, but these little patch bays and stuff in the sides are great, just terrific. And then I've got that as the power supply there for the pedals, the High 5 mod one, and then the power supply for the Quad Cortex is underneath there too. And nice clean work by Dave Friedman and crew, with the outputs all on that side. So it's a really, really nice board. It's very light. I mean, it weighs nothing. And yet it's strong. It doesn't really seem to flex or anything. So I think it's a really nice board. Terrific. Highly recommend it. Looking for a Plexi style amp with effects loop. Do you have any experience with the Victory Sheriff? I don't. I have very few very little experience with the Victory products other than their pedals. I haven't really played their amps over here. 1987X, decent amp. Decent, they're pretty good. I would send it to Dave Friedman and have him do his little mods to it that he does to those, because I think they sound better after he gets through with them. But it's a good option and totally gets you in the ballpark of the old Plexi tone. Another nice option is actually Dave's small box, because the cleaner channel in the small box is a Plexi channel. And then you've got the high gain channel, the BE channel or whatever. But the small box is probably my favorite amp that Dave makes. So you've really got a straight up Plexi just with a master volume and an effects loop if you're just talking about channel 1. So that would be one to look at too, the small box. Get you right there in the zone of that tone. How crucial is it for the strings to be directly over the pickup poles? I don't think it's like directly, as long as it's not like way off. I think if it's hitting the side, I don't worry about it beyond that. I'm still okay with even on a Strat using a typical Gibson Space Humbucker and stuff, to be honest. I mean, and the Eddie Van Halen slant or whatever you want to do, I think it's fine, just the way I feel about it. I was talking with Sir about this, and he said, it's going to change the sound of a pickup a little. Like, all things being equal, a 53 millimeter compared to a 50, the 53, because it's just a little, you got more turns of wire in there and stuff. They need to stretch the pickup in order to, so it's not going to be exactly the same as the other one. So there's that concern too, so everything affects everything. Have you ever been playing a song on stage and forgot where you were in the song? Sure. It's not a good feeling, but I know what you mean. It's not common, but yeah, that's why I would never ever smoke pot on stage. You start thinking about something else or get distracted, and then you're like, where am I? What happened? Oh, did we play the bridge? Yeah. Yeah. What else we got here? What else we got? I might just go all the way down to the bottom of the chat here in a second, because I've been kind of working my way back. Have I played the 5150 Iconic? I haven't. I'd like to try it and see what's going on with that one. See what that sounds like. Okay. Would love to see you deep dive into Blackmore's AC30 and treble booster tone. I hear Friedman is working on a Vox-based amp. I think eventually he wants to do one. Yeah. He's thought about it for a long time. I was talking about that with him last week. I feel like the best Vox amp that doesn't exist is like, if you could, okay, so the vibrato channel is pretty useless. So what if you had a 3-channel AC30 and it did top boost as well as the normal channel Brian May thing that you need to hit with a Rangemaster to get it to do anything? But what if you had the kind of the Tom Petty, like the non-top boost brilliant channel of the early AC30 before they did the top boost? That'd be cool, right? All three, if you had the brilliant channel of a non-top boost AC30, the normal channel, the dark one that needs a Rangemaster so you can do Brian May, and then a top boost circuit, after that. So like all three of those channels. And I feel like that amp, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think anybody makes that. So that would be what I would want to see. I love me some AC30, man. That's for sure. Do a demo of the new Black Sir Legacy with EMGs and Floyd Rose. I would like to, yeah. I mean, I really like those EMGs these days, but I have my own EMG guitar here, which isn't really that different. I mean, it doesn't have a Floyd. It's got my bridge on it, but, I get a lot of love for this guitar, man. Like comments about it where people go crazy for it. So, this is the same pickup set. And this guitar's bitching, man. I mean, it's really cool. So, that's my version of that guitar, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy says it's badass setting one of your pedal spots aside for a tuner. You got to be in tune. I started on violin, so like my ear quickly got tuned into the first 6 months of, this is the worst sounding shit I've ever heard in my life, and it's coming from you. And your ear gets developed pretty quick, I think, when you're like your intonation and having to play scales with no frets and stuff, So tuning was always I don't like being out of tune, really. It drives me crazy. Yeah, I just watched your Tune to Ear Van Halen video, and see, that was one thing. I wish I had more time to do that during that show. And I'll figure that out next time. But the certain tunes where you got to do the B string thing, it's like, there's one thing, like playing Unchained sounds amazing if you've got the B string tuned, but then how do you play the bridge? Because it sounds awful. That part, it's just like it. Like if I show you right now, even just with this. So, right. So now I've dropped the B, right? Oh, I'm thinking of the wrong song. I was thinking of Mean Street. Right? I was thinking of right? Right? The B's flat. You probably can't even hear it, but it sounds like shit in there when especially through a bunch of distortion, right? But those chords sound great with it. So I'm always like, which do you do? I guess you got to kind of split the difference, which is what I think his tech did. He had a certain this many cents off on that string, this many cents, and then it's kind of in the ballpark everywhere. So I have to dial. These are some of the things, when you start playing all these Van Halen songs, you're like, okay, I want to be really close. You have to do all the stuff. And it's a learning thing. I mean, even just from doing that one show, I would do things different the next time, it'd be a work in process. I'm trying to get it better and better. But Shay Frockon up there in the super duper chat, missed your show here a lot lately. Dude, come on back. I see you got a haircut yesterday. I got a haircut. Yeah. That Mitch Malloy Van Halen video that's out there is freaking awesome. Thank you. That's what I was just referring to. Good times. We had a great time on that show. Really, really fun. It's supposed to be fun. If it's not fun, it's more important that it's fun than anything. I think that people go to it and you want to make people feel like, yeah, that song when you go into the riff and all that and have a good time. That's what really matters. What else we got here? Would you say you rely more on string height for playing fast or more on just relaxing? I think it's both, to be honest. Playing fast, you have to be really warmed up with your hands synced together, where the guitar doesn't feel like a foreign body, It's like it has to be where you're really in tune with the guitar and your hands are. It's almost like I remember when I was a kid and I would learn this stuff and I started getting technically like Steve Vai solos and things, and like the tapping part at the end of Big Trouble, that solo on the David Lee Roth solo album. It's amazing, the last tapping riff. Well, I learned it note for note. I worked really hard on it. And I could play it note for note, like when I was 17. But I remembered playing it note for note and going like, how am I doing this? Like my thought process as I'm playing it, and it's almost like an out of body experience, where you're like, you work hard enough on something. It's the same as I always use the analogy of like if you're driving somewhere and you need to read a map, to get there. Oh, I turn here and then I turn here. Oh, right, it's back there a block, and you make a mistake, and then next time you're a little better at it. And then before you know it, you're driving there without thinking about it. Like it's not conscious in your head how you're getting somewhere. You could be on the phone or, talking to somebody or talking to a pastor or whatever. And you're just driving, you're making the turns and you're just going there. Right. That's what it feels like to me when I learn a hard part like that. And eventually you tune out and you just do it. And that's when you say, do I rely more on string height for playing fast or more just on relaxing? It's more like that. You've internalized it so much that there's no question where you're not even really thinking about it. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a weird thing, but that I guess maybe is all the precursor to all that is maybe having a guitar set up really well and having your tone great so that it's not hindering you. You know, all those things have to be in place. So yeah, I guess string height and relaxation and all that, you know, being warmed up, having a great sounding guitar, having a great sound, great playability, and then it allows you to just do your thing that hopefully you've already practiced and is in there, you know. Yeah. Can you do a divided by 13 amp in the zone? I would probably do that with my FTR 37 if I was going to do one. My very first amp I ever got from Fred, which as I understand it is kind of a deluxe reverb sort of circuit, I think, with the reverb and the bass and the treble control, but the added ability to boost the mid and some really neat things about it. It's kind of the amp that put him on the map, and I feel like it would be the one that, you know, everybody had that one back in the day. Everybody was getting an FTR 37, and you know, a lot of guys I knew got that amp 18 years ago when they first came out, something like that. What single coil would you recommend for neck if you have a Thornbucker Plus in the bridge? I like the V63. Works really good. You know, it's a kind of medium output single coil, I think. Not hot, but, you know, if you've got the Thornbucker back down a little bit. And a real trick with the Thornbucker that's great to do if you want absolutely balanced sounds sometimes is the series parallel switch. If you put a series parallel push-pull tone pod in your guitar, you can pull it up and it'll be about the same volume as the single coil. And then you can push it down, you get your series, which gives you more gain and more push, right? And it's just a really neat option to have. It's very, very useful, I find, over a coil tap, I think. Are you going to try Boss's new fuzz? I would like to. Yeah, I saw that. Rhett Schull did a really nice video on that pedal, kind of around fuzz in general, but using that pedal primarily, I think. And I haven't watched the whole thing, but the beginning was great. The music he came up with, and I thought the fuzz sounded really good. Not sure if he used that fuzz for the whole intro or not, but I really liked the music he came up with for it. I thought it was good. Yeah, the Boss has got me this to do a video of, so I need to. This is their IR pedal, so that's the next Boss thing on my radar, which is this week. I need to get going on that. Do you have any maple body Strats? No, I don't. I don't think I have any maple guitars right now. Maybe my Pacer was maple. You're saying your 80s Kramer Pacer was maple. I'm not sure what my Pacer was made out of. I was mentioning it earlier. I had a blue one. Pretty cool. Yeah. Stealth Parrot saying there is a forum that gives tunings for most DVH songs, so the strings are tuned a few cents sharp or flat. Is that really what Eddie did? Eddie, as I understand it, just many times, especially on Van Halen 1, probably Van Halen 2, he tuned to himself. He didn't use a tuner. So he just literally, just kind of like I did earlier, he just tuned the guitar and then had the bass tuned to him, mic tuned to him, and then they just did the take. Probably did any overdubs or fixes he needed to do, and that was that, you know. So they didn't use a tuner that much in the studio in the early days. So that's why you hear this, like, you know, in between E and E flat kind of stuff going on. I mean, they probably came in after, you know, the next morning or afternoon or whatever to cut, and, you know, the studio gets cold at night and the guitar goes up. And you know what I'm saying? So it probably just was a question of that, you know, where he was tuning to himself and then they tuned the bass to that, and that's why you hear that, you know. So I just tune. When I'm playing along to songs or trying to learn something, I use Transcribe software. It's called Transcribe. I've talked about it lots, and it lets you tune the track. So I'll just tune the track to my guitar, so then I'm not constantly having to change the tuning every song, you know, when I'm working on like when I was working on the music for the Van Halen show, all those songs, in Transcribe, you can store, so you'll open up the file in the phrase trainer that is Transcribe, and you can tune it to your guitar, you know, and I would usually tune it pretty like 28 or 30 or 32 cents flat many times, because it's somewhere between E and E flat. So I'd tune the track down to match my guitar in E flat, and then you can store it like that. So when I was running through all the music, I would just open up the new, you know, for what I started doing was opening up all the Transcribe files for every single song. So like 20 would open, and I'd have all the files stacked on top of one another in the order that we were going to play the set in. And then I would play the song and close it, and then go on to the next song, play the song, play along, work on anything I wanted to, close it, But each one of those transcribed files, I also had loops set up for the solo section, so I could work on the solo, any other things. Like if I wanted to jam on the outro, I would make a loop of that. You know what I mean? You can store that inside the transcribed file. So when you open it up, all your stuff's in there, including the tuning. If you've got any EQ or panning going on, so you can pan out the, all that stuff. So I just did all that so that I could play along to the music and practice it really easy. I'm a nut. I'm a total nut. All right. What else we got here? Any other? Did I miss a super chat? I might have. No, I don't think so, actually. Okay. I'm gonna kind of go to the bottom of the chat here. Sorry if I've missed questions. When biasing a Marshall Super Lead for Van Halen one tone, is it biased to 90 volts or 120 volts? No, so you set the amp with the Variac to 90 volts, and then you bias the amp. So if your amp was biased for regular wall voltage, you're going to have to crank up the bias in order to bring, because now you've reduced the voltage, so you need to turn up the bias to compensate. Obviously, you can't plug in without the Variac after that to 120 volts, or your amp will fry your tubes and stuff, because it's now biased up real hot for the other settings. So you kind of, if you run your Marshall on 90 volts, you kind of have to keep running it that way, or rebias if you go back to 120. I missed a super chat, says Peter. Sorry, Peter. Might have missed my top chat question about PT15 versus PT100. Okay. Let me see if I can find it. Here's another one I missed. Geez, I did miss some. Sorry, guys. Thinking of hooking up, and I'm coming back to the PT15 question. Thinking of hooking up the second pickup in my EVH Frankie. Would you? No, I don't want to. I want to keep it the way that it is. I know some people have done that, though. Cool idea. Definitely a neat idea. But let's see here. No, I'm not seeing that question. PT15 versus PT100. I must have missed it. It must be way back. Way back. Sorry, dude. Wow, is it way back at the beginning? There's one. Steven, thank you, my friend. Missed last week's, but I've watched midweek. Great show. Or maybe I didn't miss that. Thanks for 195. Anyway, sorry about missing this PT15 versus PT100 question. And I would just say, what are the differences? Well, okay, channel 1 on a PT15 is very similar to the Bella Clean channel. So it's a little bit different than, maybe a little flatter sounding than the Blackface Fender sound in the 60s. A little more mids, a little more even sounding, I would say, maybe, and has a great sound when you overdrive it. That's really cool, but it's a little different. The PT100 has a more scooped mid. This guy, the mid range is more like a. It's really, this channel is like a twin meets a super reverb, which aren't that different. There's a couple values in between a twin and a super reverb anyway. But so this has that sparkly Fender thing. The PT15 can also do sparkly, but it's a little bit more of a, maybe a mid, maybe a bit more of a neutral clean, I would say. I don't know. They're not that far off. When I'm doing pedal videos in here for drive pedals and stuff, sometimes I'll use both for different parts of the song, running a drive into it, because a drive will really expose the differences in a clean channel, because you're pushing distortion into it, and it kind of blows up the sound a little bit, so you can really hear the different character and where the clean sound is accentuating certain frequencies, or maybe scooping certain frequencies. So what I'm saying is, take it all with a grain of salt, but it's from my experience really using it back to back in here with both amps, and that's what I hear, is that the PT15 is maybe a little bit more of a neutral clean, both very usable with pedals and stuff though, and they can be tweaked to sound kind of similar, because of course there's a mid control on the PT100. I was able to get, I tried this last week. I did that high watt video this week, and I was able to get the clean channel on the PT100 really pretty damn close to the high watt sound. I had to turn the mids up, turn the bass off, And I had the gain up quite high on like almost 3/4 the way up to get that Pete Townsend kind of thing. But I really got close, and it sounded great. It was almost like two different shades of a similar, sound. So the PT100 is a really versatile. I mean, like kind of like I was saying earlier, the Hiwatt's not really like worlds apart from a Fender sound, anyway. Not quite as. It's just got more mids, but if you bring the mids down, it's kind of similar. Kind of like a Fender with EL34s. And, in looking at the schematic, we were looking at the schematic last week of Hiwatts and stuff, and a lot of the values in the EQ, especially, are really similar to Fender EQ. Reza says, I have a gnarly custom Sir Classic T on order with the Doug Aldrich humbucker pickup set. 12 to 14 months lead time. I know they're making a lot of guitars right now. How do Aldrich compare to Thornbuckers? I'll just say about the PT15 versus the 100, that was my main thing, is that the clean channels are different. The drive channels are very similar. You're going to find that maybe the PT15, maybe you can even get it cranked into the sweet spot at a more reasonable volume because you can work those power tubes easier on a 15-watt amp. But you're going to find a lot of similarities between the drive sound on both amps. They're really same lineage. Of course, with the PT15, you've got the IRs, that capability, which is really nice to have. You have a little bit more of a full featured effect loop on a PT100 with the ability to, line level or pedal level. That's what I was trying to say. As well as the, mix option and stuff like that. You've got a little bit more going on in those regards with a PT100, but the effects loop is great on the PT15. It's just a little different, and it's a little different design. So, Todd Roy says, "Did you see the Clapton sparse but interesting rig rundown?" I didn't. I heard it was pretty good. That guy just kind of bums me out these days. So I don't really follow. That's all I'll say about him. He's just I don't know. He's just a bit of a curmudgeon. He's disappointing. So, can we get a shout out to Tone Talk? Hell yeah, love it when you unexpectedly drop in. Great Tone Talk with my buddy Brian Ray the other day. And they do need more subscribers. They're doing great. Dave's always great. Mark does a terrific job. He's gotten really, really good and very natural at hosting, and he's got his own thing, and it's a nice vibe over there, isn't it? So. These are all my friends. Let's see. When you go into a solo, do you use a boost? Turn up the volume on your guitar? Both. Depends on the rig I'm using. I mean, if I'm doing, sometimes I'm doing the volume down thing and then pull 8 and rolling it up to 10 for solos. But I generally hit a pedal. Not always, but for my PT15 rig, it was an Archer. I would generally hit the Archer. Oh, sorry, I forgot to do the super chat. I'll come back to that. But yeah, I'll generally hit the Archer, or if it's a fuzz or whatever. But yeah, 9 times out of 10, I'm turning on a pedal in front of a dirty Marshall sound to just kind of augment it and give a little bit more, goose it a little bit. And it's one of a few different things. It's either an Archer, or sometimes I use my Unit 67 compressor and boost to just kick the front end a little bit. That kind of stuff. If it's a lower gain solo, I might not do any of that. I might just hit the drive channel on the, so PT15, I'll have on the rhythm channel, the drive will be on 5 or maybe 5.5 or 6 at the most. And then I've got it up to like 7 on the channel 3. Sometimes I'll just hit that and I don't need more than that. It's actually quite a bit of distortion already. If I'm goosing it, it's the volume up, drive way down on a pedal thing, and I'm hitting it with that to add the extra mids and stuff that you might get out of a Klon-type or possibly a Screamer, type. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Coming back to this one, Reza. How do Aldrich compare to Thornbuckers? Very different. The Aldrich humbucker is quite hot and loud and stuff, and the Thornbucker is going to be a little less big sounding, probably a little more like just kind of even sound with a little more mellow top end on a Thornbucker, more like a PAF. It's a little stringier and twangier sounding, because the Thornbucker has the offset coil thing. It's got a little more open kind of like veering into that single coil character just a little bit more. That gives you a little bit of that twang that I like. That kind of, it's just more PAF. So it's a different sound. fun to experiment with the different, I've got Aldrich in my Sir Modern. I just keep them in there. It's cool to have different pickups in some guitars sometimes. Been debating which color of your signature guitar to get. I have to decide today. I love garnet red. But I've loved red guitars since I was a little kid. So, my favorites these days are maybe red and black. And on the black one, you can have both because the back is red, different red. Yeah, honestly, I love a guy bought, which was really nice. He bought one at the Guitar Center in Nashville this week in the Platinum Room. They had a black one. He went home with it and he put up some nice pictures of it, and it looks so great. It was like, if I do say so myself, he took a picture of it sitting on a couch, like a black leather couch, and with the black and just the subtle binding, the scrape binding, it looks so classy. I just love that guitar. So black is always cool, but red is, I love the red one. I mean, and for whatever reason that I've kind of gravitated towards that lately as being my main one. So that's the one I've got in here that's just always ready to go. And I pick it up. I play it a lot on a lot of stuff. So, yeah. Yeah. When are you reviewing that new Silvertech pedal? I have it right here. It's a new version of the N5 drive, right? N5 plus 3D. So that'll be coming within the next 2 weeks. So I've got to get back to Wunan, the designer, and let him know I'm doing it. He emailed me a couple times. I just been doing other things, so I need to get back to him. I've got a few things here. I've got some Black Star tube drive and tube boost pedals that I'm doing a video of. I've got a fuzz that's here. I've got the Crossfire pedal from Crazy Tube Circuits. I've got the N5 3D drive. I've got this Boss. Holy, a lot of stuff to do before the holidays. Wow, that's a lot of tracks to come up with. I'm starting to get stressed out. No, I'm not. When you order a Sir guitar, do you have to pay full amount up front? I don't know that, Lauren. It's probably actually dependent on individual dealers and what their policy is, because you'd be ordering through a dealer. As far as I know, it's so it just depends. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's a deposit or half. I'd say every dealer's probably got a different policy. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, the dealer has to buy the guitar from Sir, and they've got their own, arrangement to do that. And then as far as the customer, anyway. Is the Chase Bliss Automaton a good choice for Van Halen? I've never tried to do kind of that. I would say AC/DC, no problem. Van Halen, I don't know. It's not really a plexi pedal. It's more his, what's it called? The Benson amp or whatever. Which model of Benson is it? I can't remember. It's one of his simple kind of tube amps that he solidified down into a pedal, So it's with solid state components, right? So I don't know that it's a plexi in a box, but it's a great sounding, really cool. The neat thing about the pedal is that it's got fuzz in it too, right? So you can it's a great overdrive. It's a great kind of clean boost. And then it's also a great, germanium or silicone fuzz all in one. One thing I'll say about it is sensitive to buffer. Like, you don't want to run a buffer in front of it if you use the fuzz circuit, because it's a traditional, whatever's going on is sensitive to the guitar volume. If you run a buffer in front, you lose all that and it goes kind of bright and crazy. So just know that about it. Have you been riding a bike lately? Yeah, I got my bike here actually right now. I need to try and get out there. I don't know if I'll have time this week. It's the thing with all, I love to take a day a week and go, but I love riding my bike. I need to get it worked on. Still, the pedals are messed up on it. It's still rideable, but it just creaks. It's got that weird thing in the, whatever it is in the, I need to get it repacked or whatever. My question was about the pickups, not the amps. Oh, what was your question about the pickups? The Aldrich. No, that's what I was saying. I did answer it, didn't I? About the pickups. Yeah, I did. Thornbuckers, different sound. More vintage, less output. Offset coil, a little more towards single coil, a little more open. Aldrich, a little bit more of a sledgehammer. You know what I'm saying? Neck pickups aren't going to be that different. The neck pickup, I think the Aldrich, if neck pickup is pretty similar to an SSV, if not the same. So, yeah. All right, what else we got here? Did you say goosing? Yeah, goosing the front end. Goose it. That's right. No, Danny, it's gone worldwide. Maybe it started there, but Stealth Parrot says he took a detour. That's true. I did. I detour a lot. Bear with me. What do we got here? Something about JTM 40. Use a Plexi and JTM 45. I like the 45 more. Any thoughts about the 2 amps? Well, yeah. I've got pretty much direct knowledge of the differences. Recently, Dave Friedman had an old 67 or so 45, but it was kind of transitional. It didn't have a tube rectifier in it. It was a solid state rectifier, but still JTM 45 front end with EL 34s. So it didn't have KT 66s. But just the front end sound, the JTM 45 sounded cool. That amp stock, right? 50 watt, played it in here. It was great. Sounded good, but good for Black Crows. Good for AC/DC. Beyond that, not so good. It gets a little flubby, They're just a little flubby, a little more Fendery when you turn them up. Then he converted the front end to lead spec, which is really easy to do. It's not that, in the EQ spec and stuff, to see, what that sounded like. And it became the best sounding 50 watt Plexi. I mean, one of the best that I've ever heard. It just sounded amazing, that amp and so I prefer because it's a little more versatile to me. You get more gain, more drive. You drive it harder. But the 45 it sounded great like that too. It was just a little more like, delegated to, maybe clean to Black Crow's crunchy. So it just depends what you do, yeah, they just, as the 60s wore on, they got a little brighter, a little more aggressive, a little dirtier. The circuit was tuned for that. And that's where I live a little more, so yeah. Now that you have the whole Boss 200 lineup, maybe a video on doing a pedal board with only those. I'd have to do that then, though. Would be a cool video. You're right. I've just got so many other videos to make, and they're all great pedals. The 200 series. I'm just going to focus on this IR 200 video first, though. Get that done. See that Dave Gilmore back at Pompeii thing this week. Was that like from his live at Pompeii? I mean, he did a show at Pompeii a number of years ago. It was about 2016, I think. 2017. Is that what you saw? Maybe. I've been to Pompeii. I went there recently, right before the pandemic, really, to do a clinic, in Naples, and we visited Pompeii for the day. And it was amazing to me that they had a whole, Pompeii being what Pompeii is, it's so, legendary, but they had a whole Pink Floyd kind of exhibit and talked a lot about the, they were really milking the Pink Floyd connection to the, and I loved that. I thought it was amazing. Like literally like at one end of the, it's the ancient, amphitheater of Pompeii, and at one end you could go inside and there was a whole big with video and lots of photographs and playing Pink Floyd, and it was like, oh god, this is like there's a whole shrine to Pink Floyd down here, and how they appreciated and made the the Live at Pompeii movie and everything, and then of course Gilmore going back there and doing and they showed photos and video of that as well, because I was there 2019, so this was 2016 or 17 that he was there, so maybe that's when they created all that. I don't know, but I found it interesting. I probably enjoyed that part of going to Pompeii more than anything, which is like, I'm so, kind of guitar shallow, I guess, but it was amazing. Yeah, Gilmore. So tube drivers, doing that high watt video this week made me think like that was really what he'd have his fuzzes and his tube drivers for all his distortion sounds. And he had a dedicated EQ kind of for each, right? And he would EQ each pedal for whatever sound he needed. And it just kind of made, in a way, it's a very sort of methodical, pedal platform way to go. Like I'm going to have 3 or 4 different tube drivers and, you know, whatever, a couple different fuzzes or whatever, and dial them in for these different sounds with the EQ so I can tweak them perfectly. It's kind of like having a multi-amp rig with different amps for your different sounds, you know, but he would just go at it with the clean pedal platform. And then it's a very organized kind of way of dialing in guitar sounds for a show, I think, you know, because of course he might have used, you know, on the records. I mean, I think he used Fenders sometimes and did different things. So it's like, what are you going to do live, you know? Anyways, Vincent, that was me. It's amazing. So much better in person. First instrument in a long time that I picked up and knew immediately. Oh, Vincent, that was you that got the guitar. I didn't realize it was you. Ah, okay. Cool, man. Wow. Okay. I'm pulling it all together now. Sorry, I didn't realize it was you. I guess I maybe didn't look at your Instagram name. I just saw the picture that you posted and we had a little back and forth. Okay. All right. Well, forgive me. I'm an idiot. Thanks, Vincent, for getting it. That's awesome. And it looked beautiful. The you know, in the photos you took and stuff is very cool. How was your trip to Nashville? You're out there visiting, enjoying? I missed a super chat here. Let me find that one. Where is that one? There it is. Oh, it's not a question. It's Richard. Just saying, hey, thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. Appreciate the super chat. I do. Helps keep me in coffee. Helps keep me going. Cheers from Canada. What's up, homie? How you doing? SG Design says the Quad Cortex looks complicated. It's really not. It's so easy to use, I will say. I find it very, 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 very simple, to be honest. So almost to the point where I haven't had to crack a manual to do anything. I find almost every other, this is true. I'm not like, whatever, you know, what's your favorite? What should I get? This one or that one? I find it probably the easiest to use out of just about any of them. True. Just the way I feel about it. Yeah. Let's see here. I was surprised on that Tone Talk that Page's neck pickup is a super hot PAF at over 9K. Oh, the bare knuckle one. I haven't actually seen that one. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, they were all over the map, you know, the PAFs. I mean, they weren't, you know, they weren't that, you know, it was an approximate thing how many terms of wire went on those. So that's why they all sound different. There is no one PAF sound. There's a ballpark, I think, you know, and they were all over the map as far as the, you know, anywhere from 7. I've got a PAF in my 335. It's like 7.8 or something. It's really low. And it's the neck pickup. It sounds awesome. The bridge pickup is a patent number that's like 7.4 or something super low. It's a humbucker that's weak, you know, almost single coil strength, and it sounds great, but it is weak, you know. Since my Stratas or my Tellys is loud, you know, pretty much. SD Design, thanks for the music and for the gear tips. Have a coffee, glass of wine, or cider later on me. I'm going to make it a cider. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. There's Richard as well. Thank you for the super chats. You guys rule. Here's another one. Sasha Boo Boo, what's up? If limited to just Boss Chorus, would you pick up an old 2-knob over the Super Chorus? I would probably get the new Waza, to be honest. Sounds great. It's totally cool. You know, there's a blue Waza Chorus, right? I would go that way. No reservations about doing that. Thanks for the music and the gear tips. Thank you. Have a coffee, glass of wine. That's you again. I already said that. Thank you. Thank you, SD. I'm all over the map. The coffee's kicked in. Can you tell? Oh my God. What humbucker pickups do you prefer for clean cones? PAFE stuff. The Thornbuckers, to be honest. I mean, honestly, you know, the middle position on a Thornbucker set is a thing of beauty for playing clean. And even the neck pickup is just dialing the amp at the right high end and everything. It sounds almost like sometimes I'm like on the neck pickup, a Thornbucker, and I'm like, am I in the single coil position? And because of the way I got it dialed, if I hit it single coil, it's too thin. But no, I'll be on the humbucker setting. It sounds perfect and amazing. So, you know, neck or middle, and then they split beautifully, and it's just good times all the way around. Aquila says that he saw, this is cool, saw Floyd in 88 in Auckland. His guitar tone was quadraphonic and so amazing. And I would love to have heard that. Yeah, I mean, they really dialed in a beautiful sound. You know, he strikes me as somebody that was just so methodical about his tone for every single little part, dialed it in. He was very precise with the way he played those simple, beautiful parts. You know, I mean, friggin'. How do you like that tuning? I just totally annihilated Pink Floyd because I was in the, but think about that. I mean, and when he plays that, and if the sound is right, it's like, and he does it with the right intention, and the sound is so. I mean, imagine how much time he probably spent dialing in the sound for that, and the crowd just goes freaking ballistic when you play those 4 notes. You almost don't have to do anything else. It's like such a moment, and the anticipation leading up to it, because everybody knows what's coming with the solo before that, and he's playing beautiful lead before that and everything, but then he plays that, and it's like the C's part. It's like a friggin', like. I don't know. It's such good times, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love that. I'm a kind of a methodical guy about the way I dial things in and stuff. So I like that attention to detail, and his, he's not phoning it in ever, in any aspect of his, and those 4 notes are going to be, you're just going to get the chills when he plays those 4 notes. Well, that's cool to me. Give me that over any 4,000 note sweet picking lick any day, H-Ball says, just discovered the channel. Love the playing reviews. Thank you. Always fun to check out the hairstyle. Hey, it's just it's whatever it'll do these days, I think. Without, I'm trying to prolong, not like all of us, not looking super old as long as possible. I'm trying to prolong looking somewhat younger. So, let's see. Do you know about the EVH con going in Connecticut? No. What's that? Never heard of that. So there's a whole Van Halen conference. Didn't know anything about that. All right. What else we got here? Different tube drivers all dialed in different. Yeah. I mean, that was his that was kind of like the ampy tube preamp distortion of the day, right? The tube driver, Chandler situations. And, I think he just went, it was methodical. If you think about it, it's like a bunch of different amp channels. Oh, I'll dial this one in like this and this one in like this and whatever, and then the high watt, was hopefully evident by that video I made this week, is just a great pedal platform. I mean, the fuzzes, I only ran fuzzes through it, really. I ran my BAE Hot Fuzz. This pedal, if you guys don't have one of these, you should really get one, because it's not an exorbitantly crazy expensive pedal, and it's the shit. It's a treble booster, see, high frequency boost and fuzz in one pedal. And this is what I used for kind of the, the more gnarly sort of rocky solo or whatever in there. And it is a great sounding big fat fuzz that you can also hit with the treble booster, at which point it becomes aggressive and really, it's smoother on its own, and then hit the treble boost and it's just killer. And look at it. It looks like a piece of Neve gear. Come on. How cool is that? So this is from BAE, the Hot Fuzz. Love this pedal. Great pedal. Always works. Just sounds, when I'm like, I want a fat tone. I remember Holly Henderson, when we were making her record here, I hooked her up to probably my pedal board and had the, like my Marshall 50 watt, I think. She was playing a solo on a song with her telly, and we're trying to get a tone. And I had her plug into the Marshall. It wasn't quite enough drive for her. And then I probably hit it with the Archer. And she's like, I remember her saying, it sounds like somebody's going to start shredding. This isn't the sound I want. I was like, okay. And then I went and got the Hot Fuzz and plugged in. And she's like, yeah, that's it. It was just like a way more, big fat fuzz. Great. And that was like, okay. I always remembered that. Like, it's the antithesis of, somebody's going to start shredding. It's more like somebody's going to play a really cool, not that there's anything wrong with shredding, but it's not what she does, Somebody's going to play a cool, appropriate rock meets indie rock solo that's melodic and wild and, all that good stuff. Yeah. Gonna get a Hot Fuzz, says Keith. Yeah, they're cool. They're underrated, man. They're a really cool pedal. Often can't make the live show on Sundays, so watch on Mondays, but today I found the couch. Yay. Thanks for being here, Chris. Appreciate it. I'm stoked to see that people watch it later too, for any of those listening to this after, during the week. Generally speaking, I'll look later Sunday and there's about 4,000 or 5,000 people have watched or something. But then by the end of the week, there's like, they're generally up to around 8 or something. So people watch during the week. It's cool. I'm glad anybody cares that I'm wired on coffee and losing my mind every Sunday morning, and that we're all having fun. Let's see what else we got here. Heard your Sir PT100 in the hands of Ian Thornley, and it sounded amazing. Probably better than it sounds in my hands, right? Ian, he's a monster. What's different from a regular super lead? Like a Marshall super lead? Well, if we're talking about the kind of it's got a great Fendery clean sound, right? But let's the drive sound. What is going on in a lot of modern amps that are, if they're EL34 based and they start with their lineage being Marshall-y, it's some variation on, adding a gain boost to the classic plexi circuit and tweaking values throughout the amplifier, really. So it's a tweaked, you could think of it as really like a highly modified 800 sort of circuit. So an 800 would have the, the extra gain stage in it and stuff. And anyways, it's just a highly refined, starting on that Marshall kind of, the lineage and then refining it and dialing in the tone so that it's adding gain without getting flubby. That's the key. Anytime you add a gain stage, you bump up the gain now as you're losing definition. Okay, so how we do that? Well, we take out a little bass, tweak here, tweak there, change the values of the EQ, change the values of the, the tone stack and the presence control, how it's done, the negative feedback in the power amp, all this kind of stuff, and just dial it in. And it's just a fine tuning affair, really. And then, of course, if you want an effect loop, you add an effect loop and try and make it work with pedals as well as line level effects, and make it really versatile with different types of effects. And all the while trying to keep it quiet, not too hissy, all these kinds of things. Yeah. You had floaters before you had 2 surgeries for detached retina, so now you don't have any, right? How do you see now? I wonder. Cowtown Customs. Do you feel like you see like is your vision what it was before you had your retina surgery? And is it a revelation not having floaters, she had them and had a astigmatism and had a lens implant. How's her vision after the lens implant? I'd love to know all that. I'm just trying to get different people's experiences. Missed your super chat, Richard Garcia. I'm sorry, dude. Let me see if I can find that. Sorry. Ben, help. I'm sucking today. Missing super chats. And oh, there you are. Sorry, buddy. You were just saying, hey, I appreciate it, Richard. Thank you very much. Thanks for the super chat. And maybe I'll have 2 ciders tonight. No, I'm going to take it easy. This is going towards a sandwich for lunch. Thank you, my friend. Keeping me going. I appreciate it. Okay. IR100 review. Yeah, baby. Yeah, it's coming this week. Gonna get it done. Okay. The end of the chat here. Getting dark already in Ohio. I know we're getting to that time of year, right? Winter's coming on strong. It's true. John says he's having a tough time dialing in the PT100 plugin. Super dirty. Just go on channel 2. Well, channel 1's not, right? Channel 1 is clean as a whistle. If you are having, do you have the boost on in the plugin? Because the boost will make it dirty, but it'll get quite plexi clean. Go channel 2 with the gain. Start with it on 2 or 3. Just turn up the master more. Turn up the negative feedback control or turn it down, actually. Turn the negative feedback down to maybe 3. And turn on the bright on channel 2. And see how you fare. With the gain that low, it ain't that dirty. I mean, it's, it's generally speaking pretty low gain. Yeah, but it sounds to me like you might have the boost on in the plugin. Shouldn't be that tough to dial in, though. I don't think. What amp would you buy off the shelf for Steve Vai's Edelman Smile Tone? I mean, it's a Marshall-y. So, I mean, you could go with a number of different amps, including my PT100 or a, Friedman, maybe the, BE50, B100, something like that. You know, we'll get you really close to that sound. Now, as his sound evolved, I think it became different and like kind of darker. And, you know, as he got into the Legacy and the, you know, the Bogner sort of segueing into the Legacy period, you know, his sound has evolved and it's different now. You know, it's got a very smooth lead sound now. That's not necessarily, and I've talked with Steve about this directly. I meant about it's a little bit in that interview I did with him for the Jose Marshall of his, but you know, his module up there, the green one that's in there, I really just need to knock out a little video of that module. Because it is a neat sound. It's a unique sound. It's a smooth lead sound that is easy on the ears for an extended period of time, I will say. It's not like aggressive Marshall, but it has a nice distortion character to it. And he told me that, you know, I'm the lead singer. I'm the voice, and I can't have that be grating after 90 minutes of me doing it. It's got to still be an okay thing for me to listen to and enjoy as well as the audience, you know, and that was his concern. And that made a lot of sense to me. It was him telling me that, how he voiced his lead sound and what he was looking for. It's a lead vocal voice, really. So his sound evolved over the years, but back in those days, I mean, he was, you know, he basically told me nobody knew what we were doing back then. We were just like kind of, you know, looking for a good sounding Marshall. And then we heard Eddie went to Jose. So I went to Jose and had some amps done. And, you know, he's just a brilliant player that was kind of like still maybe trying to find his tone. Maybe at that point, I would say that would be fair. I don't think he would probably argue with that. And then as he gets into the late 80s and then into the 90s and stuff, he really starts dialing his thing in and really deciding what he wants and stuff. And becoming, you know, and the gear obviously is way more gear available, Saldanos and Bogners and things that he started using, you know, as the demand that guys like him really drove that demand, you know, for an amp that maybe wasn't incredibly blisteringly loud when it did what, you know, but he always had the, you know, his abilities were incredible and his instincts were incredible and stuff, but maybe the gear had to catch up, you know. So what was the best venue you've ever played? I've played some really cool ones. The best, I mean, I've got a lot of favorites. I don't know if I could pick the best. The craziest gig I will probably ever play was the gig at Fuji for, you know, 100,000 people or whatever in 2015. Because it was so, playing all night outside on this stage that was the biggest stage ever made in Japan. You know, which was a big, giant field essentially that was, you know, in a valley with mountains, surrounded by mountains. So when the sun comes up in the morning, it was a beautiful day, and it was like there's all these beautiful green mountains and 100,000 people with the mountain behind us. I mean, that's probably the best venue I'll ever play. It was pretty cool that we kind of, you know, the boss made out of thin air, found the location, had to figure out how to secure that location, wasn't going to take no for an answer, and figured out how to have a show there with the mountain. You know, it was amazing. But there's a lot of places that I can think of in the States that I really enjoyed playing Red Rocks. There's some great clubs in this country. I mean, the 930 in DC, the Norva in Norfolk, Virginia. That's another one that I thought, God, that's a great club, like really great club. And then in France playing, I got to play some, you know, Roman era Coliseums. Is it Nimes? I can't remember who the one was. I've got photographs. I'll have to go find it. But the two venues I've played in, actually three venues I've played in France that were all kind of Roman era, unbelievable, you know, preserved venues. Some of them small, you know, on the small, but the other ones were probably at least 5,000 seaters or something like that. So much history. If you want to see one of them, the video that I did for Two Notes, it's on their YouTube channel. It's a rig rundown. So you could search the Two Notes channel for Pete Thorn rig rundown. You'll find it. It was this beautiful Roman era venue that I remember playing with Michel Polnareff. So lots of great spots, you know. Good times. Do you ever play gigs around LA these days? Not that many lately. Not really. If I go and I do gigs, it's in the UK, it seems. Yeah, I'm headed back to the UK to do 30-some shows in January and February. So I'll be all over that place. The Liverpool Royal Philharmonic and Cadogan Hall in London, 2 shows, and a bunch of others. If you guys are in the UK, come see me. But yeah, around LA, I haven't had that much chance to play in the last few years for whatever reason. There's a super chat here from, here's one from Bruce Black, and then another one that I'm not going to miss. I'm going to get it in a sec. Stephen Douglas wants to know if you've made a decision on your Boss delay. You said something about going less complex. I haven't made that decision yet, actually. Still thinking about it. I'm going to try the Boss 200 series and see if that gets me where I want to go, but that'll require some MIDI stuff because it's got the small MIDI jacks on it. Now, I may just stick with what I've got. I was probably just having a moment, like we all do. I may just sort of start from scratch with the delay, with the DD500. Right. You ever make presets on a thing and then you get to the point where they become kind of a mess? Like, you've got all of a sudden, like on the Boss, you've got 2 sounds per bank or whatever, and you get up to like 25 banks of like a whole bunch of presets, and you're not sure where anything is anymore because it's kind of a pain in the ass to go through and name things on the little display. I may just say, screw all that. I'm going to start from preset, 1A, and make my main food groups of like a few different kinds of delays and do that up to bank 5 or something. So that I've got like 10 presets. Here's my couple of digitals. Here's my couple tape. Here's my couple analog, whatever. There's my main ones. And then beyond that, if I need specific ones that are timed for songs, I'll start with one of those and then name it the song title for the, I'm figuring this out as I talk to you, with you. I think that's what I'm going to do. If I just put in a little bit of time, I don't have to go through the trouble. I could either, take a delay off the board and go through a bunch of trouble of doing that and having it rewired and all that bullshit, or I could with different MIDI and everything, or I could just work with what I've got and put in probably less time and be happy. It's not like I don't like the sound. The DD500 sounds great. It's just a little complex, I find, but I can work with that. Once the sounds are in there, I don't need to change them. I find, generally speaking, and if I want to change them, I'd rather almost just commit, like oh, I want a little less bass in this particular sound, and then store, and then it stays like that for all of them. Thoughts on a stereo chorus leaning towards an Eventide or mod factor H9? Yeah, H9 is great for that. I was mentioning earlier, I'm a really big fan of the Mobius too. I think the Mobius does that stuff great, and I don't really think we need to look further than it. I think it sounds terrific for flange, chorus, rotary. It's basically the Lex sounds. So it's really good. An H9 is really good too. I tend to prefer the chorus in the Mobius specifically for chorus, but I really like the rotary in the H9. The Leslie in the H9 is fantastic. So SD Design has a question about chorus. Shoot. What is it? I'm just looking back here to see if I missed any. Well, that's interesting. BV Ninja's telling me something I don't know. There's a trim pot switch in the automaton. That's the automaton. I never know how to say that. Chase Bliss to adjust the fuzz impedance issue. Third blue switch away from stomp switch. Flip it towards the stomp. What? Oh, it's inside. I didn't know this. So you can get in there and flip a dip switch or whatever, and it'll work better with high impedance. Is that right? Interesting. I like it. I don't necessarily want to change it. I just noticed that it doesn't, as it comes stock from the factory, didn't seem to play well with a buffer, but worked in the traditional cleanup way when I did the roll down on the guitar. Not for overdrive sounds, only for the fuzz circuit. So maybe I should experiment with that. Let's see. I want to do a pedal board eventually that has both it and the reverb on the same board. Just because I think that would be cool. What else do we got here? Okay, bear with me. Just looking through the chat and see if I miss anything here. Just returned from a swap and trade show. Feel so over vintage and authentic. What are the best guitars that are moving forward with design playability? I mean, I think you've got your Sir being at the foremost of that. I think PRS does nice stuff. Really good. Richard, you might have a question and you sent the super chat empty. I'm happy to answer any questions Oh, that's you right there? Okay, right. I think Sir, man. I mean, they're obviously my choice. I don't think you need to look further than that. But other guitars, let's give other makers their fair. I like Macmol a lot for vintage style guitars. I think they do great work. That T I have that I used in the high watt video, it's an amazing guitar. It's very vintage, but it's got its own thing going on. What else? I think PRS is doing nice stuff, to be honest. And Fender even does nice stuff out of the custom shop. That's like, I mean, they make great stuff that's a little more, 9.5 radius, 6100 frets, more modern. Whether you want Floyd or not, whatever. So, yeah. Let's see here. I mean, look at this guitar I'm holding right now. Like, this is, basically what you're talking about, right? A more modern, with the Wilkinson bridge, and it's got EMGs, and yet it's a Strat, basically, it's its own thing. You guys are talking about the PT100 being dirty. Yeah, the plugin has more headroom, I would say, on channel 1 than the actual amp. But yeah, just run the gain low, dude, if you're trying to get it clean. Like, run it on 3 or 4, and then turn up the master to like 4. And you might need to, at that point, turn down. One thing about the PT100 plugin I found, I'm not sure if this is true in just the Plugin Alliance version or if it's the UA version, but turning down the power soak, which is just like a master volume on the output, really. So they call it power soak. Turn that down for because I find it is a little too much output for a lot of situations, and it'll overdrive in the DAW. So that's a thing. Lucas took you weeks to notice there's a mid boost. The mid boost is cool, right? On a divided by 13 FTR 37, you can pull out the volume knob and you get this kind of nice barky. It sounds great, like with the volume up around noon or 1 p.m. with the mid on and through a 412. Killer. One thing about that amp is there's a lot of bass in there, and you're going to probably find that you should turn the bass down to about 2 or 3, with single coils even. So bass low, treble, kind of like you would a deluxe reverb. You run the bass kind of low and the treble up a little bit, 5 or 6, and then you can pull that mid through a 412. It's got a great rock, barky sound. Drives, I would probably, an 808 or an Archer probably sound great into that amp. I'm not sure if there's a bright cap on the volume or not. I assume there probably some sort of bright cap, but I think an Archer or an 808 style would work good. Something like the Bonsai or whatever from JHS, the one that does every TS9 sound under the sun, that probably work really good. I used to use a number of different drives. I used to use an old green Rhino with mine, which is basically like a TS9. I'm thinking about when I used the FTR 37 was my rig, actually. I used it for Draco Rosa. I used it for a number of tours and stuff. It was always really good. Maybe one day I will buy a that rack chorus that's SD design. It's really good. That the Tricera chorus from Eventide does a great version of that sound in a pedal. It's really nice. So check that out. You can also get that if you got an H9. You can get that algorithm. Watch my Tricera chorus video. You'll hear that it does a really nice version of that sound. There's a big old super chat up there for $20, and I need to get to that. Missed a few super chats. I'm working on it. I'm sorry. Really enjoyed your dialing in video on the high watt. Out of curiosity, I looked for photos of license high watts, and sure enough, the mid was dimed. Was it? That's interesting. That makes a lot of sense because you heard the amount of drive. It's like, holy shit, it's like an overdrive control, in the about 100K. It just lifts the EQ more and gets it out of the way of this. You're not really adding gain. You're actually just putting back some of what the EQ took when you're cranking up those mids. Just like on a Marshall, it's just not quite as dramatic on an old Marshall Super Lead type amp because the mid control is not as aggressive. Going on that pedal show when in the UK, I would love to if I can work it out. I'd love to see those guys. I didn't do that the last time I was there. I visited Anderton's, but I didn't get a chance to see that pedal show guys. So I'd love to hang with them. Do I know the lineup for the Classic Rock show? I actually don't. That's an interesting thing. I'm going to see James from Classic Rockstar. Are you talking about the people that are going to be involved? It's most of the same crew as the last time, I do believe, but there could be one or two people different. I have no idea, actually, because I haven't asked him. I just know we've batted around the song list and stuff, but I actually haven't said, hey, is everybody going? It's one thing I haven't said. So, but I'm going. I'm going to be there. Okay, there's that big old super chat, or a couple of them here I need to get to, so working on it. Michael, Michael asks, what would 3 pedals be good to start with? Have a distortion pedal that came with my Marshall amp, okay, and a blues driver. Time to update. It depends on the style you're playing, man. I mean, what kind of sounds are you looking for, you know? Like, blues driver's a good boost that kind of does its own thing, but it's in the, you know, it's not super dissimilar to a super overdrive or a TS9 or something. So it's, you've kind of got that covered. I would say maybe you want, like, if you want to go kind of like, don't go too crazy on the expenditures, maybe get something like an Echoplex pedal from MXR for a delay, and maybe a chorus or something, you know, or a mod of some sort, phaser, you know. But I don't know. It depends what style you want, you know. What? So it's a tough one to answer. Tell me kind of what you play. Like, oh, I like this guitar player or that guitar player, and I'll see if I can dial it in a little, you know, my recommendation a little closer to. Yeah. Ryan's asking if I've ever been to Muscle Shoals, Alabama. You know, I don't know that I've ever been there. I don't think so, man. I've been to Birmingham, and but I don't know that I've ever been there. I don't think so. I say that like, and you're like, how would you not know? And it's like, just, I don't think so. But on tour, you know, sometimes you can go and play somewhere and all you get to really see for whatever reason that day was the inside of a venue. And I just don't think I ever made it there. But Birmingham, I've been to a number of times, and you know, I've been around that area. Like I was going to say Biloxi, but that's, you know, it's obviously not Alabama. But I've been in that. I'm trying to think of the venues I've played around there. I mean, even just being in Destin a few weeks ago was not far, right down in the Florida Panhandle. But that place in particular, I don't think I ever made it to on my travels so far. Being on tour is different than traveling any other way. You know, there's a lot of places that it's just like, I'll see pictures and it's like, oh yeah, I was there. You're in and you're out, and it like almost doesn't, sometimes you don't have time to form a memory, you know, or maybe it's just my mind is going. Could be that. Okay, what else have we got? There's finally Blake. I made it all the way down here to the bottom of the chat, and well, not quite the bottom anymore. But anyway, how far away are we from having the VH1 sound you got with the SL68 and real JBLs in a more accessible format? You know, I see what you're saying. I mean, I think you can get really close with modelers and stuff these days, you know. I mean, you know, like let's see how far we've come, like from, you know, the 90s or something, to be able to kind of bottle that sound now is it's a lot easier than it used to be. I mean, how close would you say that I got in that Hot for Teacher video, you know, that came out? Because that's a modeler, you know, through just, you know, I would do things differently even than I did, but I think that you can get quite close these days, you know. I mean, God, even the little Marshall SV20 that I heard Friedman modify really sounded great for that crank plexi sound on 10 and everything. And he did a few tweaks to it. And it was like, man, that actually sounds really good. And that's an amp you can buy for, you know, $1,500 or less, right? $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 used, whatever. And then, you know, you run it into I mean, I tell you, if I had that into let's say a power station, you could put the reverb, you know, in the loop, get a, you know, plate reverb, put it in the loop, whatever. I mean, there's so many different ways you can go about it. Somebody once said, like, you're good at getting that sound a number of different ways. And it's like, when I think about what I just did with the Quad Cortex, you know, I put the Elsa 68 in there. All right, we'll do that. But instead of going direct, we'll use real cabs and a power amp. There's like a number of different ways you can attack it these days. But I would say, be it, you know, a digital, you know, a capture and a Quad Cortex, or an actual amp, maybe loaded down with a load box or something, the main thing you're going to want to do is phaser, flanger, echo in front. Get those real pedals, because still nothing sounds as good as the real pedals to me. So get the real pedals, put them in front of whatever thing is doing your kind of Marshall vibe. And then, when you say the JBLs and the reverb, it's like, are you playing live? Because if you're playing live, just use greenbacks. It's like that's what he did anyway. For the most, the JBLs didn't last very long. So a good greenback loaded 412 will get, like it's close, like it's way more important that you play the parts right than that you have the JBL or the exact reverb, whatever. I would go a little wetter than I did the last time. I would add a bit more reverb. I erred on the side of not much going on with the post effects. It was really quite a dry sound I used. Next time I would add some more goop. It's a little more fun and maybe a little more in the gain. I erred on the lower gain, rather dry side for that gig. And it's not the easiest thing to play in the world when you do that. But I kind of let it all hang out when it came to that. And then I think next time I would go, let's make this a little bit easier on myself, add a bit more delay, a bit more reverb. But these are all things you can do pretty easily, like in something like the Quad Cortex, like I say, So I think we're there kind of. I mean, you can get, if I want to do everything, I feel like I can get that sound in the studio. I know how to do it. And then if I want to get reasonably close to it live, it's also not that hard. And it's just way more important that the spirit and the fun is there. That's the main thing. I don't think Eddie ever captured the Van Halen 1 sound live, but what he did was just absolutely murder the guitar. And with Dave going crazy and the tempo's up 3 or 4 beats a minute or maybe more, and stuff, like their live thing was like just fire. And trying to capture that is almost next to impossible, but trying to capture that is that's the most important thing over the sound. Hit the gas, like get the rig you're doing that gets you in the zone, and then just hit the gas and try and get the groove. That's the most important stuff over the sounds. So can you get the SL68 to do JCM 800 sounds with pedals? Yeah. I mean, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'd rather have I'll put it this way. I would rather have the SL68 with maybe a super overdrive in front, a Waza super overdrive or something, than I would a stock JCM 800. So, you know what I mean? It's a better sound to me. I'm not really crazy about JCM 800s, but I don't mind them when you do all the tweaks. This is just me personally. Maybe you love them, but I find them a little woofy and a little anemic at the same time. It's like a little too fat and woofy, not tight enough, and then not quite enough gain. That's a weird combo for me, because generally, if it was a little too woofy, like a Soldano can be a little loose, but when you get it to that point, it's got a lot of gain and it's still really fun to play or whatever. Whereas the JCM 800 is a little anemic with the not tight thing too. So anyway, how would you add the Sunset Reverb live? That's from Aquila. I'm just doing a hall or a room reverb in the Quad Cortex. It's not exactly the Sunset Sound reverb, but you could spend some time probably dialing in most reverbs to get somewhere close. I mean, Eddie never did the reverb live, so he didn't really use reverb. You wouldn't really want to do the level of reverb that's on the records live, because unless you're outside where there's no ambience, if you're playing in a venue, you're going to get the room ambience too of playing in a club or something, and then it doesn't really work because it's like too much reverb, So the reverb is really a studio thing that Van Halen never had that live either. You didn't really use reverb ever, So like a reverb unit. I mean, he had the PCM 70, but that was for Cathedral, right? And Van Halen's main thing was that that he got into, at least later on, once he went to the rack, like post 84, he started doing the stereo delay thing, wet, dry, wet, and stuff like that. And he would have the amp loaded down and then go to the H&H and all that. And what he got into was a stereo SDE 3000, where one side was, as I understand it, 250 milliseconds, the other side was 500. So kind of loosely an eighth note delay on one side and a quarter note on the other side, I guess. But I don't think he ever timed the delays for songs or whatever. He would just have those echoes, kind of almost like a ping pong echo, not going back and forth, but it was like, the quick one on one side and the slightly longer one on the other side, twice as long. And that was his ambience that he felt comfortable with live. And the reverb is really like a studio thing that I don't I added a bit of reverb on that show I did, and I would probably use a little more, but I was doing a room that wouldn't be as long as the Sunset studio thing, and it's just not really necessary, I don't think, for live. It's a studio thing. Mark says he has the SV20C. Yeah, if you ever get the inkling to do it, send it to Dave and have him do these couple mods that he does. I don't think it's too expensive. And man, did the one I heard that he did here sounded smooth and really good. Like, it was cool. You might be happy already though, so not saying you have to do that, but yeah. Bob says, is that why you can hear the individual notes mostly in your fingers? Well, yeah, if your technique's clean, if you really work hard on your technique and don't go too mushed out with the gain and stuff. Having done it, I would probably want a little more next time. So I would figure that out, like getting a little bit more grind in the sound, just because it'd be a little bit easier. It wasn't the easiest sound to play. It wasn't super hard either, and it sounded great in the PA, but there was times where I was going for feedback where it was almost tough to get, and I don't know if that's a digital thing because the way that I did it, if the actual amp would be more, I might try a real amp next time, like doing okay, we tried that. Now let's try the SL68, but just doing the effects in the quad cortex or something, and see how it responds. And, the real amp does have a bit more, versus the capture at the same volume and all that. Cause I tried it. I went back and forth. The real amp's a little livelier, like just a little bit. The quad cortex does an amazing job. I mean, obviously it does a really good, but the real amp there's a certain something, so it's just a little more life or something. So yeah. What kind of capacitors do I use? I have no idea what Sir uses. I'm not sure, to be honest. It's his standard tone network and then his standard cap and resistor as far as the treble bleed. There's a treble bleed in my guitars, and it just sounds great to me, so I just use that. I'm not a tone control guy, really. So I don't rarely roll the tone control down on my signature guitar, but yeah. Eddie got back toward his early sound in 07 DLR reunion tour. I would agree with that. I thought his sound was really good. And those early, the very first incarnation of the 5150 made by Fender, the Blue Channel had a really cool, that was the sound that I used on that How to Play Eruption video, which I thought sounded really good. It doesn't sound exactly like Eruption, but it's definitely the right flavor, and for a multi-channel amp, I really liked that. And I took that amp on the road and used it as my main tour amp with Chris Cornell. This is well before I had a PT100 or anything. The Blue Channel on the original 6L650 150 was a good Van Halen-y, Marshall-y distortion channel. Really good. Had the right, the character was, I remember playing it for the first time. I played a Guitar Center Hollywood, that amp. And I went to the Blue Channel. I was like, oh man, that sounds good. It's got like the harmonics or whatever. It had these, like, even at low volume, it was like, this is fun. It has that sound, like really a good sort of, variation on that theme. I thought it was really cool. So for what it's worth. Mark, what pickup should I buy if I want the Van Halen 1 sound? Well, you got to go watch my video. I did 2 videos, actually, where Dave Friedman and I explore that. You can listen and decide what you think. Check out my YouTube video on it. The deep dive of 23 pickups. So I'm not going to say any more because you got to go. That was a massive undertaking. So I think you'll hear the answer in the video. What else we got here? It's already difficult enough to play with Van Halen along in the studio outputs. Playing live with them is just a good try. Yeah, geez, dude. One thing I found is that you can play along to the records and all that. You can get all the parts and everything. But then when you do it as a band, like if your feel is a little off, like as a band, luckily Wayne, the drummer, he was like, the first time we played Beautiful Girls, which is a bitch. If you, like Hot for Teachers, one thing, but if the drummer's not like swinging like hard, oh man, I would not want to play that live, and Wayne, he's really good at it. Really, really, really great at it. Actually, killed it. But you know, same thing with I'm the One. Like, you got to have a drummer. That Alex Van Halen is so underrated. So underrated. You know, I've come to realize very, very, very difficult person to try and play like as a drummer. You know, a lot of people might think they know how to do it, and I don't think so. You know, so anyways, Magic Man says the Custom Shop 78 was Eddie's pickup. It nails his tone. I think it's a really, really good one too, and you can hear it in the video that we did. Stephen Douglas says Pariah Pasadena Black. That's a good variation on the hot theme for sure. For sure. Mark says Hot for Teacher was a triumph. Very well done. Thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way that video came out and sounded. You know, I was like, oh, you know, Mitch mixed it. Actually, I sent him my guitar the way that I wanted it. Like, as far as the, you know, I balanced the tone and everything. I sent him a stem of the guitar, and then he used that. But then he did everything else, and I thought it sounded great. His mix dialed it in just really nice, and it was exciting. Captured the spirit of the evening, I think. BV Ninja's giving me a little explanation there on how to access the trim pots in the Chase Bliss. Thank you for that. Oh, it's 1:44 already. I didn't realize we'd gone so long. I'm having fun. 2:05. Well, I'm going to hang for another 10-15 anyway, because I'm having a good time talking with you guys. Kevin says, thank you for your time, wisdom. I'm a knucklehead, but thank you for being here. Stealth says I'm a fearless guitar player for having the guts. It was a challenge, you know, that I wanted to see if I could, you know, and you know, I didn't completely succeed. I feel like I could do things better, you know, next time for sure. But it was really good to know that we could get up and have fun and do that. And I think that the answer would be that what I would want to do is, you know, like 10 gigs or something, or like 2 weeks of just like every day, and like trying to, because what I came to realize, like what I just said about the swing and stuff, we're talking about a band that played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows, if not thousands, like over the course of many years before anybody even heard them. You know, they played all the time, like, and so trying to play that music and do it justice and stuff, you're trying to get into something that was just natural for, you know, a band that had this, you know, inherent like crazy DNA that just sounded like an organism, that, well, like a single organism working together, you know. And the only way to get there is to play. And so I was like, okay, well, to really, like, even just to play like, one thing I noticed, I don't do a lot of tapping. It's hard to do standing up. Like, you know, to do it naturally, it's not that easy, and it's like not something that is super comfortable for me. So like, all right, you need to do that more if you want to sound like really natural at it, you know. So little things like that, you know, where I always want to do it better. I don't know. It's a fun challenge. It was a really fun challenge. So I thank you for saying. And you know, I would just want to keep trying moving it forward and having fun at the end of the day, you know. The video you did getting a 68 tone from the PT15 was fantastic, says Jeff. Convinced me to get a PT15. Would you be able to dial in others amps on the PT15? I mean, anything kind of Marshall to Fender cleans, you know, you can get there pretty. The PT15 will do a great version of a lot of those sounds in the ballpark, you know. The only thing I'll say is the Vox tone is very distinct and requires that circuit. It's a different sound to me, you know. So, but I think that the PT15, as far as, you know, Fender Marshall, it's really, 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 really good. So, why don't you do some VH covers? Like, Ain't Talking About Love. You're such a good player. Thanks. I mean, I do, like, what do you mean, on YouTube or on? We may put out one or two more or something from that show, you know, that you'll see. I mean, I would rather do it like that rather than me sitting here in the studio and playing a Van Halen song. I think it would be much cooler to you know, have a live video of a band playing it, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. There's a super chat there from Blake again. Thanks, man. If the goal is to nail the signal chain from input to master to tape, and then put all that in the modular, is it possible? Hmm. I mean, the tape part is, like, I think there's even tape sim in like Axe Effects and stuff, I mean, I feel like with the quad cortex and then the speaker sim, you can kind of get very close, or IRs and stuff. And then you're saying, and then that can run DI. I mean, yeah, I mean, I feel like if you run the pedals in front of the quad cortex, I mean, I could play it for you and show you like what I can't do it right now, but the way I have this, okay, like the way I have this guy set up on the board with the pedals, right? That's kind of the goal here is I've got the pedals in front of this. And then in here, you can do in the quad, you can do the reverb and your post effects or pitch. If you want to do like, Panama or whatever, you're trying to get those sounds or Sammy era tones, you can do the pitch. And then you can add the speaker sims or IRs if you want to get really crazy. You can even make your own IRs, with the JBL mixed with the 57 or whatever. And you could do that and then put them in here and then go out DI. And I feel like you're going to get, I mean, I already feel like I'm to the point where it's close enough, like whatever I've got, that I don't really care I don't feel like I need to like, oh, it's still something I'm on the search for. I feel like I sort of, with the things I have here, I can kind of do it with a real amp or, I mean, what you heard, if you watch the Hot for Teacher video that I'm playing, I mean, I'm using the SL68, which you heard in the Van Halen deep dive video and stuff. And I'm just taking that and putting it in the quad cortex. And then I just happen to be playing it through real cabinets, but I could also do it with speaker sim. And, there's ways to do this stuff now that's close enough and that if people are watching a video and going, that's awesome, that rocks, that's fun, I love that, it's great, and then I don't need to go any further, I feel like, because it's like, okay, well, mission accomplished with that sound. I don't know. I mean, how do you guys feel about it? Like, does that make sense? I think we're there is what I'm saying in a very long-winded way, convoluted way. But playing guitar hanging down low makes tapping difficult. Play with the horn at your solar plexus and that problem goes away. Yeah, it's more just actually the act of tapping, which I used to do a lot but haven't for a long time. It's not really a part of my vocabulary, so it's like one of those things that I would have to just to really feel comfortable doing. I would have to do more. That's all, just work on it more and have more time and stuff. What I came to realize, it's interesting. I feel this over and over again. When I work on let's say I've got a show coming up, like the Van Halen thing, I'll do 20 songs or whatever. I'll work on it and I'll get it to a point, and then I'll be like, I'll feel the pressure of the show looming. Like I need to stop obsessing over individual details now, tone or whatever, and I just need to play. And I'll stand up and play the songs and play the songs and play the songs and play the songs, and then I'll go do the show. Then afterwards, I can decompress and think about it and go, okay, what could be better about what I did? And then I'll go, oh yeah, you had that one problem in that. And there's something that happens on stage that's always, where like the things that occur to you on stage or the things you learn, little mistakes or something with the sound or whatever, you then have done the show, and then you can go back and kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? When you debrief, you debrief yourself and go, okay, let's get that thing better, or the mix on the delay was not nearly loud enough on that part, or the little things, or when you were tapping that one part, you need to work on that because live that didn't really come off or whatever. And you think about all that stuff, and then you can hone in on all that stuff after. But before you do the show, you work on the songs, get the parts, whatever, and then the show's coming up and you're like, I need to just, I'm going to be what I'm going to be at this point, and does that make sense and so go back and do it again. I would know now the things that, okay, let's focus on this, up the game here on this, both parts and sound, and like, that kind of thing. Things like pickups, like you guys are talking about the best Van Halen pickup. It's like, I was like, I'm just going to use what's in the guitar. I'm not going to think about that. I don't have time to, I don't want to take the strings off and rewire and all those variables. My time would be better spent working on the solo for I'm the One or whatever, like, because you only have so much time in the day and stuff. And then like later on you go, all right, maybe now we'll think about switching pickups or something, so yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So That's a lot of work. It is. It's a lot of work, you know, doing the whole thing. It's just, it's a lot, you know. So, what's your opinion on the tone zone? Expecting that one in the Van Halen pickups video. I've heard that it's kind of close to. I heard that actually the Andy Timmons pickup is the closest thing to the pickups in the Music Man. But to be honest, I don't really. When it comes to the Van Halen pickup sound, to me, I'm more interested in the early, like the first two albums. Like whatever came after that is cool, but like, and I love all the song. I mean, in '84 is one of my favorite records, but just the sound that we focused on for the thing, you know, there was no tone zone out then. You know, it was more like PAFs, Duncan pickups, you know, DiMarzio pickups, like the you know, Super Distortion. That's more what I. It was just like Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2 kind of focus. You know, because later when we get into Sammy years and stuff, like things have changed, and I've also you know, sort of formed the opinion that, be it the EVH 14K humbucker, the custom, whatever ended up in the Music Mans and stuff, if you add whatever was going on all the way through the Balance album, which is, you know, a fair amount of harmonizer and all that to the sound, it kind of is. You use that much Eventide on anything, and the subtleties of the pickup can go out the window a little bit, you know. I saw a video the other day of 5150 at it was a really great solo, 5150 in Tokyo in '89. You can find it on YouTube if you want to watch it. So the song 5150, and he does a great solo. But listen to it. It's almost single coil sounding, you know, the gain is low. And I bet, you know, a couple years after that was when Steve Blucher and Larry DiMarzio, you know, were at 5150 and looking at that pickup and examining the pickup that was in that guitar to make a pickup for the soon to be released Axis model, right? And what was in that guitar was a broken JB, right, with one coil shorted. That's what they, you know, from those guys, they were the ones that looked at the pickup, and you can hear it in that video. Watch the Tokyo '89 video where he's playing 5150, and on the solo, it sounds like a telly. It's like, but his playing's brilliant. It's like, this is what I mean, like sort of like when we're talking about all these subtleties about the tone and all this stuff, because it was like the guy could play so brilliantly that, you know, but if he had a shorted pickup with only one coil working, not a lot of people talked about it in the '80s. We were all just like, yeah, more Van Halen, you know, and there he is in Tokyo, and listen to that solo. We weren't like getting so analytical about every aspect of the sound, and he had a lot of harmonizer then. It sounds like a great Marshall, not super, you know, it's like not super gainy tone, and that's probably the pickup with the shorted coil with some harmonizer on it, and whatever he was playing was just fun and brilliant. So I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say, but you know what I'm saying, I think. All right, going all the way to the bottom of the chat. I can't remember what pickup you decided was the most Van Halen one. Well, so I think it's two things. I think it's 9K PAF in the white and black guitar, you know, 9K A2 PAF, and then in the Destroyer, I'm quite certain Super Distortion. That's what I think. You can hear it in me playing it, you know. I think it was two distinct sounds depending on which guitar he was playing. So that's just what I think. It sounds right to me, you know. When I play, you know, You Really Got Me or whatever with the Super Distortion, you can hear it. Do I think there's an unreleased Van Halen song or cover they did that has not been released yet? Oh, there's so much. I mean, there's tapes and tapes and tapes. You know, he played me stuff like up there that was like cool, that, you know, I mean, he played me a song that was amazing that I'll probably never hear again. I don't know. You know, he's like, check this out, you know, and he put it on. It was like, this is awesome. I'm listening to new Van Halen, and it was so cool. And there was no vocals on it because Dave never worked on it, I don't think. But they had written a song, probably, I don't know if it was Wolf with the background vocal ideas or Wolf and Ed, but that was fleshed out with a title of some sort, and they were singing on it. So this is 2009, you know, and he plays me this track, and it's like, I'll never forget it, man. Okay, imagine, I'll just set the stage. He's like, he goes, yeah, man, check this out. Because I played him a song off my record. I played him the song Revenge of the Nerd off my record because it was done. I was going to release it a year later or whatever. And he goes, okay, let me play some stuff. And he's got a CD, and he goes and he puts it in, you know, and then he starts playing it, and the drums come in, and it's this drum beat, and he starts like going like this, and he's playing the drums, and he's like, you know, and it's Eddie Van Halen. He's like excited playing. And I'm like, yeah, dude. And he's just cranked through the mains, and we're sitting there listening to it. And I'm like, fuck, this is amazing. I'm listening to new Van Halen, that, you know, and he's playing it for me, and I'm in the place. And it's like, you know, it's like, you know, I don't know, like a religious experience, right? So, and I'm having so much fun. And then we get to the solo, and I remember him because he'd you know, imitate like air guitar or air drum a lot, you know. And so the solo comes in, he goes, he's probably yelled it at me, I can't remember, but he's like, okay, check this out, I just wanted to like milk one note. And he plays this note, and he's like holding it, and he's sustaining it, and he's just like going like this, kind of imitating what he did. And on the recording, it's like he played one long, maybe it was with the sustainer or something, but he's playing it, and it's just sustaining, and he's bending it, and then he bends it a little more, and then does like, and then he finally goes into another lick, you know. But like, it was like 2-3 bars of like the first note just getting dragged out. He goes, yeah, I didn't want to play fast, I just wanted to like milk one note, you know, just to sort of mess with people or whatever, because his whole thing is more, you know. But yeah, that was cool. That's one thing he played me, you know. And then he also played me right off 24 track reel. He played me them rehearsing, like Wolf and Al and him, and they used to jam all the time. He's like, we just did this morning, and he had the reel up, 3 songs on a reel, and it was old tunes, you know. I'm not sure which songs they were, I can't remember, but it was awesome and sounded great coming off the console, you know. Just like, so there's so much, you know, that he probably had up there that maybe they don't even consider them like releasable or songs that, you know, but like you wouldn't, because you're like, well, it was never worked on or whatever. But it's like, that was just whatever he's like, oh yeah, check this out. Okay, now go check this out, you know, play the 24 track. And like wow, like, yeah. So there's got to be, all I can, and then when you're, you know, the walls are full of tape. I mean, it's just tapes, you know, 24 track reels on shelves. So was there vocals on the demo you heard? No, he told me that he said that, you know, I don't want to go into the, you know, I'm not talking trash or whatever, but I think it was difficult to come to terms on what they wanted to work on with Dave, what Dave wanted to work on, honestly. Because I think, you know, he told his comment, I'll just say, was, I was like, are you like, this song's amazing. Like the song that he played me sounded amazing. I'm like, are you guys like, you're going to finish this, right? Because it's great. I was like, it was a really good song that sounded like Van Halen, but it didn't sound dated. To me, my impression hearing it coming back was it sounded modern as hell and just like really cool. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It's just good, you know? And, like before it had been, you know, cooked too much production wise or anything like that, it just sounded cool. And he said, I don't think Dave is going to like it, you know, or something like that. He said to me, and I'm like, really? I'm like, and that, which was kind of depressing, but he's like, yeah, I don't think I just got the impression that he would do a lot. And then Dave would be like, I don't want to work on this shit. Like, honestly, you know, that was my impression from what he told me, you know. That it was a struggle to try and come to terms on, which is maybe why A Different Kind of Truth was a lot of old stuff, you know, a lot of, well, I don't think it was for lack of writing new stuff. I think it was like trying to convince him that these new riffs were cool, or that, you know, that it was like something that they should explore further, you know, was a difficult thing. But you know, a lot of people talk a lot of trash about Van Halen and about, you know, how the brothers were the problem and all. I'm going to tell you, man, I think that, you know, it was tough to get things together that maybe they saw eye to eye on, that, you know, because Eddie wanted to rock, you know. He, like, if anything, he liked Alice in Chains. And I mean, when I did that first 5150 demo video for the pedal, I did it and he was very happy with it. And I took it up there. But the first thing he said to me was like, okay, this is great. Can you make another one? Do it like a heavier one? He really liked heavy stuff. Like he really liked, you know, he's good friends with Jerry Cantrell and stuff. I think he really liked like heavy. He liked metal, and he liked, you know, I think he liked, you know, he went through like other phases too, but at least when I got to know him, he seemed to be in a phase where he really appreciated like badass, you know. I mean, you heard it on kind of some of the whatever the new stuff was on A Different Kind of Truth that wasn't older riffs. Like I'm forgetting the song titles right now, but there were some that sounded heavier and like darker and like kind of more, that's the zone he was in. Like, so he wanted to rock. And I don't think Dave wanted to, I mean, look at Dave around, he's like doing the, basically like sort of like a Vegas routine or something, right? Like with his, you know what I mean? Like the outfits and stuff and everything was in. So you had this disparity at that point of like doing different kinds of things. So, Briggs says, did Eddie like Tool? I know Wolf really likes Tool, so I would assume that he probably did. That's what I'm talking about, actually. Like that kind of musicality with the riffs, like was what it struck me that he was interested in doing. He was in that heavy kind of mode, and maybe it just didn't jive with whatever Dave, wanted to do. So, yeah. Who knows? I don't know, man. I mean, it's like, Scott says the EVH vault goes up to the ceiling. That's the first thing I know. The very first time he took me in there, he gave me a tour around. I remember, like, okay, you're in 5150. There's a lot of stuff that's like you're walking into the room where they did 1984. I mean, from the control room, that's one thing, but going into the live room, there's a certain, it's like this is where Alex played Hot for Teacher or whatever. This is the room where, or whatever, this is the room where things came to fruition, and like, it just is like, wow, this is like it's going to church. But beyond that, seeing, whatever I saw when I walked in was the wall of tape, and I was like, oh my God, like I've never seen, like it looked like an archival kind of museum or something. It was just so many reels of 24 track tape that went all the way to the ceiling and all the way down the wall. Look at all that fucking music. Wow. That was what really struck me walking in there. Beyond, there's, what amps are in here or whatever you look at, when you go in a place like that, like, is that the Magic Marshall or whatever? It was the tape, it was the music that was shocking. So, oh man, thanks for taking me back to that journey back through time. Cool experience. I'm so thankful for having got to experience that. Steven says, I was surprised you used a profiler. Yeah, I know. Well, it was a little like, here I, tried to come up with a way to do it. And I was like, I think this is going to work. And it sounded really good. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. And then I went, but I want the cabinets. So I'll send those. Yeah, I know. It was a little like, honestly, it was like, what's one more variable I can introduce? An amp and a reactive load. And I was like, I'm just not going to do that. Maybe I should have. It sounded great though, the way I did it. It's just like, if I do it again, I'll do it differently. Like I said, I think I would do stereo next time. 2 cabinets, IRs to front of house, 2 cabinets with, and maybe do the real amp, but loaded down through the matrix. Maybe I would try that. That would be the way I would go at it, maybe. So, anyways, I should probably go soon. I've been going for a long time. I'll tell you what, it's 2:05. I'll go till 2:10 and then I'll split. This has been fun. I'm just going to take off and get some other work done and stuff and eat lunch. I feel like Eddie wanted to be in a band and Dave wanted a band behind him. Yeah, I mean, I think there might be some truth to that, Lauren. I think, I think that, I don't know, man. I don't want to talk shit, I think a lot of things, but I just think the chemistry, whatever happened for the first, till 84 or whatever, was a magic time, I think. So, I wonder what Eddie thought of Nirvana and the hype. I don't know. It's a good question. He definitely, I don't know if he liked Nirvana, but I know he liked Alice in Chains, and I know he really appreciated Soundgarden and Cornell because that's how I met him. So, he was a huge fan of Chris Cornell. So, yep. So who knows, maybe that stuff gets released at some point. Maybe they work on it, God, that song I heard, I would love to hear that come out at some point. Sammy said they recorded tons of stuff. I bet they did, I bet there's just at some point when the time's right, maybe Wolf and Al and those guys will decide to do something with that stuff. Was there vocals on the demo you heard? Yeah, background vocals. No lead vocals. But they had a background vocal harmony part worked out. Maybe just as a place marker or something, as an idea, and it was cool. Wolf, obviously, he writes great, I don't know if it was him that came up, like I say, with the ideas, or if it was Ed or what, but, maybe he was like, wrote some lyrics and then was like, what if we do this? I don't have any idea, I mean, Wolf was the full-on bass player and doing stuff by then and stuff. So that's what I heard, Danny says, love you. Hey, love you too, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for these amazing live stream, all the insider info. Heart. Thanks, man. I appreciate you being here. I do. God, I'm so wired on coffee right now. I'm flying. I was tired when I first got in here, and now I'm just like, I'll probably crash around 3 p.m. That's what'll happen. Can you do... sorry, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Does anybody know? I honestly don't know. Recently got into tremolo. Is there one you would recommend? I really like the Flint. I really like that Jam Pedals Harmonious Monk I just did a video of as well. It'll do both amplitude style trem as well as harmonic. So that was really nice. And once again, the Mobius is a great resource, that will give you chorus, flange, tremolo, rotary, even credible vibe sounds. Some of the best stuff in the Mobius is stuff that not a lot of people talk about, which is the lo-fi stuff. I love all the lo-fi filters and vinyl sounds and all that weird stuff for like doing effecty stuff on recordings. Evan said, pretty unified in the early days. Yeah, I would say they were. They were like a team. Even later, I think they were like brothers. The way that those guys would talk about one another reminded me of, for instance, the way that my grandmother and grandfather would talk about one another when they were like, my granddad used to say, about my grandmother, I'm going to get you a T-shirt that says nag, nag, nag. And I'll never forget my granddad passed away, and about a year after he passed away, I was at my grandmother's place, where they used to live together, and my grandmother got on a tear talking about him and how he used to do this and how he used to do that, and then he would say this and then he would do, and I'd be like, ah, and she was talking about him like he was there. Like he was, just like complaining and how like he was there. I'm like, you can let it go now, he's been gone a year, like, you don't have to get all amped up about, this stuff anymore. But I'll never forget being at his service and looking at my grandmother's face and seeing her, in tears as people were talking about him, so to get all emotional, but it, I remember like the look. I'd never seen my grandmother cry, I don't think. And there she was, just tears streaming down her face as people were, telling stories about him and how many years they spent together and stuff. And that's relationships, right? And I think Van Halen was a little like that in a way, I mean, growing up together and being like, that kind of like, people are complicated, relationships are complicated. And I've always said, it's as you get older, you realize that you can hate someone and love them all at the same time. Right? It's quite possible to feel like intense love and also just hate someone's guts, like all in the same moment. And that's relationships. And I think Van Halen had some of that, They were probably brothers that, they probably, pissed at one another and I hate that guy. And then if anybody slagged Dave or did something to him or whatever, I'm sure Ed would be the first guy that would be there to deck somebody, So it's all true simultaneously, because it's not, I don't know, relationships are what they are, right? So it's like family, it's crazy. You guys don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not teaching anyone anything. But sweet and sour, you can love them and still find them irritating. Totally. Or out and out, like full on, like hate somebody. Like, I hate that bastard, but also love them at the same time and realize how important they are in your life and all that stuff. So Braxall's asking, what amp did I capture for the Van Halen stuff, and will you share the capture? Maybe one of these days I will. Yeah. I haven't shared any captures yet, but it's just the SL68 with everything on 10. That was what I used for that. So yeah. Yeah. Oh, are we still live? Cool. I know. I just kind of, kept going. I haven't stopped yet. I don't know why. I probably should. Anyways, live 195, and they just keep getting better. Hey, thanks. On that note, I should probably split, right? And I'll see you guys next week. I'll be here. This week I'm going to get working on the IR 200 video for this guy. Another one for something else that's coming out this week. I can't say what it is, but it's a sort of preamp related thing. Videos for these Black Star pedals right here. Here's I should have just showed you this earlier, but this is this is a tube overdrive that has 2 channels. Look at it. It's got all kinds of stuff on it. You can run this direct. It's pretty cool. And they also make a tube boost. So a video for those. So lots of stuff coming this week. And Jason saying, can you explain your quad cortex setting the signal chain for direct capturing your SL68? And direct capture sound terrible. Really? That's interesting. Wonder what you're doing wrong. What, Jason, just really quick before I go, what do they sound like? Because you should be able to pretty much do a direct capture of the amp straight out of the reactive load with the input coming in maybe no hotter than -10 or whatever. You know, when you check it in the quad cortex and make sure the inputs, it can be as low as like -15 or 18 or something coming in. And then you just run the stuff, and then you add a cab sim to it, and it should sound pretty damn good. And I'll tell you the one that I like for the Van Halen thing is in the quad cortex, it's the 90s Greenback 412. I think it's a 1960B 90s Greenback something or other. And it actually works really well. It's a very, very nice cab sim for doing that thing. So try that one. But yeah, that should work. Tell me what you're experiencing though, if or are you doing a capture with a mic on a cabinet? I'm just talking about direct capturing. You're saying direct capturing. So, you just take the line out of the reactive load. You got to make sure that you're not using a speaker. Well, unless you want the cab sim baked into the capture, but I would just do a direct, use the unfiltered output on the reactive load, capture only the amp head sound into the quad cortex, just put everything on 10, and then add that Greenback cab sim, and it should be in ballpark, like pretty good sound. That's what you're hearing on that Hot for Teacher video, except I'm using real cabs and you're hearing it, that kind of thing. So did you respond, Jason? Let's see. Well, I'm not seeing anything else from you, but just let me know if that works. And then Reese, is that how you say your name? I also see up there in the super chat. Love your demo of the J-Rocket Clockwork. Does it do external tap tempo input or just expression pedal control? I don't think it has external tap, but I'm not 100% sure, man. You might have to look on their website for that. I don't have it here right now, so I can't double check that, but I don't know. I honestly, I'm not sure about that. One of those things that I can't remember. Lunch is getting cold. You're right. I should go. All right, you guys. Let's see here. Thanks. I look forward to your Sunday chat, says Scott. I look forward to being here with all of you every week, and I'll be back next week. And thank you guys for all the super chats. Thanks for being here and for all your support. As always, have a great week. Love you all. You guys take care. Be safe out there.